Call to order. Can we start with roll call?
Okay. Member Peterson? Member Steele?
Here.
Member Halbert?
Here.
Member Deeds?
Here.
Member Jones?
Here.
Member Segreto?
Here.
Member Lau?
Here.
Okay. Item 3 is the approval of the meeting agenda. Anybody have any changes? We have a motion to approve the meeting agenda. All in favor?
Is there a second?
Second. Sorry, all in favor?
Aye.
Item 4, community comment. And just like to remind everybody, the community comment portion is trying to limit that to 3 minutes, and we're not supposed to engage in dialogue. It's just supposed to be community comment. So anybody here want to say a few words? Ray?
Oh, thank you. I didn't think it was such attention. My name is Raymond E. O'Connell, 4612 Valley View Road, Edina, Minnesota. I've been in that house for 45 years now, and I hope for a few more years. But I'll be very brisk on this and short, but this is the Baber Men's Club, all the members of it. And I just want to make you aware, and to Joe I use the word paradigm, but it is because it's parallel to change. And the change is that in the first year that we allowed members from beyond the borders now have started to grow, and we have 57 new members this year, and I see that growing. And just to give you the parameters, it goes all the way from Lakeville to Maple Grove, and from Shorewood to Mound. So it covers the broad, more than the 7 counties, actually. And but I just want to make you aware of that, because you'll have to consider it, because it's part of the park budget and everything else, but this is going to grow. And part of it will reinforce the membership, but it also will grow the attendance. And I think a lot of them work in Edina. They make it easier for them, but up to now, it's not been allowed. But I just wanted to bring it to your attention.
Thanks, Ray.
Thank you.
Seeing nobody else stepping up. Item 5, reports and recommendations. We were going to have Manager Neal give an update on the quality of life survey and answer any questions that the board might have on budgets. He's next door, and he'll step in here as soon as he's free. So if it's okay, could we move along to item C and move back to A and B with everybody? So if we start with enterprise facility business plans, is there any order that we want to do these in, John?
No, I think what I'd recommend, you've had a few weeks to look it over, and if you have any questions, we have all of our enterprise facility managers with us here tonight. Whatever specific questions you have, or I know the council was also looking forward to your comments as well. We have the managers here. You can call them forward and ask your questions.
Does anybody have any specific questions that they'd like to start off with?
I actually have a general question, and that would be, and maybe you can answer this for all of the managers, John, but how often are these business plans done, and what is the cycle? When are they prepared and approved?
Okay. I'll do my best to try to answer that, and you folks can chime in and correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's about every, is it 4 years or 5? Ed, Ann, Todd, we try to update it every 2 years. Every 2 years. So this is the 10, 11, and there will be a 12, 13 up will be the next one. No, I stand corrected. Every 2 years. We're running a little behind on this one for a variety of reasons, but this is the 10-11 cycle.
Do you want to just go in alphabetical, start with the
Yeah, let's do that.
aquatics and then go
Why
to
don't we
the
go in order
arena?
of
Or
what we have here? So the first,
you want to do arena first?
yeah, let's do arena.
Yeah, okay. I'll start off, I guess, because I kind of went through it and have a few questions. Now, are we looking, the budgets are part of all of this, correct? Okay, that's what I wanted. So on a cash basis, it looks like the arena is about $340K short of budget this year. We're about $100,000 short. It looks like on the rentals, about 1.1 projected versus the 1.2 originally budgeted, correct?
That's correct.
Can you, and the capital expenditures are, looks like about what, 200 and, about double, I don't know, 270. Can you give me a little insight on those couple of issues?
On the shortfall on the ice rental that end, we did lose a couple of hockey camps that we expected in this summer. Went out of business, and that was a fairly large amount of money. Another hockey school that was scheduled to be in this summer severely reduced their ice rental, and our figure skating club has reduced their ice rentals throughout the year as well. That's the main reason why we did have not the amount that we were expecting.
And on the capital expenditure side of things, from 285 up to 573, what's the shift there?
I think that would probably be a question for our finance director. I guess I'm not exactly sure.
Can you show me what it is you're like, David?
Budgeted was 285. Estimated 11 is 573 at 706. And that's on the capital expenditures budget.
Okay, we'd have to refer back to the CIP. Is that, that's a little later in the discussion.
Okay.
Okay?
All right. That's fine. Couple of questions just on, in terms of pricing. Some of the arenas do an late at night or an off-time pricing, and I didn't, I wasn't clear. Do we do anything along those lines?
Yes, we do.
Okay. So we're at 180, am I right? I'm trying to get my...
Just went up to 190 on September 1st.
Okay, so we're at 190 and then,
Yes.
and then off-peak or whatever we refer to it as?
Off-peak would be $150.
Okay. And just, how are we on utilization? I mean, of all the available ice time, where are we at proportionally? I mean, are we doing 75% of available time or 30%?
I wouldn't say that it would be that high, mainly because of the daytime hours that we're open for operation and the kids are in school. I would say from October 1st to about the middle of March, there are very few hours available, evening hours and daytime hours. We need to sell more ice in the summertime, and looking for more men's groups to come in and skate in the mornings and use up some of those hours as well. We have picked up a few in the last month, so that's a good sign.
Congratulations. Great. Go ahead.
Well, just following up on utilization, I'm wondering, and this is, maybe you're already doing this, so I don't know. But I do know that you have programs for preschools and programs for school-age kids, and I'm just wondering if you're using, I know the school district has a brochure that any parent in Edina probably uses quite frequently for their after-school programming and their summer shades. Do you advertise or report, your programs in that? Have you worked
For our city classes, our
Yes.
Learn to Skate program,
Right.
yes, we do. We advertise locally We're on the billboard currently outside of
Okay.
City Hall here. We advertise on our Facebook page, and we also send out flyers to the schools.
Okay. And where I'm going with that is that ideally, we might be able to find some of the elementary, the kids that are getting out earlier, either the preschool or the elementary school might fill the daytime hours. And I don't know if you've pursued.
That's a tough one, especially in our down economy right now. We have even seen our Learn to Skate numbers are very low this year.
Okay.
I could definitely speak with my head instructor and see what she would think about late afternoon. We do currently have something on Tuesdays, beginning at 1:30 and at 2 o'clock. I'm not exactly sure if running that program more than once a week would be cost effective.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just mentioning that is a
Right.
pocket of
Yes.
potential.
We are looking at other options for maybe some ice times for the kids that get out of school a little earlier.
Okay.
Maybe utilizing that ice as well. So
Okay. And then the other question I had is trying to figure out revenue and how that all works. What type of relationship do we have with the Hockey Association?
I think very good. There are some things in question right now, but I think overall our relationship is very strong and only going to get stronger.
Okay, and I actually meant with respect to the concession stand.
Right.
Is that a contractual relationship?
It's not a contractual relationship right now. It will be. I know there are a lot of questions on who should be running that and making the revenue. They use it as a tool, and it would be beneficial for us as well. I think we have to look at the relationship side of that when we decide which direction we want to go.
Yeah, and my line is mostly we want to make sure that we're fair to
Right.
all. So if that is, I don't know what our current relationship is with other associations for other concessions, and/or whether or not it needs to go out for bid. Maybe, John, you can answer that question.
Well, we do have a contractual relationship with the Edina Baseball Association with regards to the operation of the Courtney Fields concession stand. And I've directed Doug to work closely with the hockey group and analyze what's going to be the best arrangement for the city out there. Is it something we might want to take over, or is it in our interest to treat our customer with little softer gloves and enter into a contractual agreement that serves both? It's something we're still working on.
Yeah, and I'm wondering, after reading the golf consultant report with the expectations of percentage of revenue, we're not near that right now with the Hockey Association. So I'm just making that as a point. I think we were expecting something like 10% if we were going to bring them into the golf clubhouse. But I appreciate. I mean, I love hockey, and I want to keep the relationship strong. So I realize when you say we're going to figure out what's the best
Right.
way to proceed. I can appreciate what you're talking about. So, but having said that, I also want to make sure that when I see concessions and I see what the city is bringing in, it's not, it is, how do I want to say this? Yes, it's very low.
It is very low, and I have been having conversations with the Hockey Association about different ways that I think can help their overall numbers, because they do seem low to me as well, especially when you look around at other associations or other ice arenas.
Do any other ice arenas sell liquor at the arena as a source of income? Like beer?
I wouldn't think any city-owned facility does.
The Vadnais Heights one has a bar.
They have a
attached to
bar
it.
connected to it, but
Is that-
the alcohol's not allowed to be brought in.
Well, I understand uncontrolled bringing in of alcohol, but then again, you know, I'm just wondering, is this a complete taboo for the city to have perhaps considering beer sales at the arena as a source of revenue?
Alcohol at the arena is not one that's ever been brought up before. If that's something that the park board feels we should look into, give it some thought, make a motion, see if there's a second, and see where it goes.
Do you think that would be a bad idea?
I do. We have many hockey tournaments at the arena throughout the year, spring, summer, fall, winter. You get a lot of upset parents at hockey tournaments, and I think alcohol could make that worse.
I don't imagine you're allowed to in any of the high school or the youth sports.
State high school
either.
league law will,
Will, yeah,
Yes.
disallow it.
correct.
Yeah, and just as a matter of principle, I think our park district should be promoting healthy behavior and modeling that type of behavior. I would not be at all interested in having alcohol in our parks.
Different revenue question. There's 3 arenas, and figure skating has revenues for the dasher boards in the South Arena. Hockey has it in the West Arena, and we get revenue from the other arena, correct?
Figure skating in the East Arena,
Okay.
Hockey Association in the South,
Okay.
and currently the only ads we have in the West Arena are one in ice ad.
Is there no demand, nobody requests to put dashboard
I have a lot of requests for it, and again, I have recently met with the Hockey Association, and they have expressed a lot of interest in selling ads in the West Arena once again. We stopped that after our construction. They have the support of our Figure Skating Association, so there's not a conflict there as far as the Hockey Association having 2 rinks and the figure skaters having 1. But I have asked them to draw up a new proposal as far as a percentage that the arena would get off of off of the sales of dasherboard advertising.
If they can sell them, why can't we just sell them?
We could.
Well, why don't we sell them?
That's something that we've been also working at with, I've been talking to John and Jenny Bennerat up here at City Hall in the Communications Department. That's something that we're also looking at.
Yeah, I think we should. It's $1,000 a year per sign, something like that?
It could be that. It could be more.
Yeah, so, but we don't see anything from the South Rink. Edina Hockey Association gets all the revenues from the signage in the South Rink?
25% is what we're currently getting.
Okay. So I had somebody that told me that they paid to have a sign put up in that rink like 3 years ago, and they haven't been asked to up for the last 2 years either.
That has been a major issue, and that was one reason why we did not give the West Arena back to them at that time, is we do have a new gentleman that has taken over the advertising sales for the Hockey Association, and I've been working very closely with him over the last 2 weeks, and I think we're finally going to get all of this under control. He is doing all the investigating he can to find out who has paid and who hasn't paid, and to make sure that we get the money that is due us.
I think that'd be a good idea, and I think we should try to get it on the other arena that we control and get 100% of it.
I know one issue that was brought to me today by the Hockey Association is they have numerous sponsors that help pay their bills throughout the winter months. Some of those sponsors would buy dasherboard advertisements in the West Arena. They are now expressing their displeasure that they are no longer allowed to through the Hockey Association, and are saying they may not be a sponsor of the Hockey Association anymore. I don't know if that's our problem. Again, it's a relationship issue with our Hockey Association and how we want to handle it.
What? Okay, let me start. I'm a Californian. I'm not from here originally. I don't know the history of the Edina Hockey Association and the relationship between the city and the Edina Hockey Association, but I don't believe there's any other association in the city that has got these same kinds of arrangements in terms of the low rates on the concession, owning chunks of 75% of the ad revenues in the city's space. I find this kind of interesting, and I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of email if anybody hears this, but I really do not quite understand the special relationship, as it were, between Edina Hockey Association and a city property. So I'd like to learn a little more about that and why it is we're doing that. Do they pay the full $190 for ice fees?
Yes, they do.
Okay. All right. And the high school's not generating revenues via selling the West boards, or who was also one of our major tenants, right? I mean, the high school takes up a lot of time as well, too.
Yes, they do. The high school girls program generally does not make money on their throughout the season. The boys, they do make money through ticket sales of the games.
But I'm just trying to figure out why is it that the money for selling the boards is not coming through the city?
That's a question that we've been asking over the last year and a half. Again, like I say, I've been working with Jenny and trying to decide which route we want to go. Do we want to continue to help out the Hockey Association? Ice time fees go up a lot of money, $5 every year minimum, and cost of equipment, it's raising. And I do believe the Hockey Association is they're having a hard time filling their numbers. I think right now, currently, they're okay as far as their numbers, but financially, I think they're maybe having a hard time.
Didn't we request their numbers?
If I can chime in, I think the best answer for that, this is not unique to Edina. The relationship on offering concessions, facilities, and advertising dollars, very expensive to have a child in a hockey program or a figure skating program. And part of rewarding and developing a good, strong business relationship with our two most powerful customers and most needed customers is to help them finance their program through other ways. So them hustling the sponsorships and them finding volunteers to work in the concession stand. In some cases, like even baseball, they either will have to pay an extra fee or they can volunteer time at a concession stand. And that's a very common practice in many, if not all, communities, either in hockey or baseball. That's a very common practice. Part of it is develop a good, strong relationship with our best customer. It's good customer relations, I think, is the best way to put it. Could we do it ourselves? Sure. Part of this is tradition, and it's been viewed upon as good business sense. If you want to change that practice, we can certainly do that.
And I understand what you're saying there, and I think that as a parent of an athlete, I can think of going out and taking the time to try to sell advertising or something. So I do understand where that's coming from. But what I'm more concerned about is the relationship that we have, being that they're bringing in cash and keeping track of, as you mentioned, who's paid and who hasn't paid. And it seems as if it's an inappropriate business model for a city. And we can still say, yes, keep 25, you get 25. We could keep the same percentage, but it flows through us. And then we pay out 25%, so that then we'll know that annually who's paid and who hasn't paid.
That would be an option.
And have it be quite an open practice for all rinks. Whoever sells can maybe have a choice of which rink they'd like to sell in first. And once those slots get sold, then it moves to wherever else there's an open spot for a board. But the other question that I have, though, this is very unusual because I didn't know we could advertise in parks. And I'm just wondering what the city policy is on advertising.
That's been a little bit of a moving target, and I don't want to get hung up on it. We got a lot to go through yet tonight. But, yeah.
So we can talk about that at a different meeting.
Yeah, that's another whole discussion, as is alcohol, as is, those are great questions, but it would take a lot of, anyway, I've said enough.
I think some of these issues are being discussed in Kia and Bill's work group, too, so.
The one question I had preparatory to that is that we do have the budgets in hand that we can review and work closely with the association on, correct? So in terms of building a relationship and in terms of changing the way in which certain procedures are followed with the flow and the money in the budget, we have the information to do that, and I think that we have a past relationship which would enable us maybe to try and build on doing something positive along those lines.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it is an important relationship for the arena, but maybe just finding a way to more efficiently manage the way we're selling the advertising, the way we're tracking the advertising, making sure we're going back and not giving somebody a 3-year free pass on advertising. It seems like a real opportunity missed.
I totally agree, and I have expressed those concerns to the association. They need to do a better job. We need to do a better job of tracking as well. Maybe that is the way we do it. We track it ourselves.
I think a lot of these questions could be addressed and answered if the relationship between the city and the association were formalized in a contract. And I would be real pleased to see a business plan that says within a certain number of months you'll work together with the association and formalize a contract, because I am sensitive to the relationship, but I think it would be best for the two parties to have a contract.
I agree. I totally agree with that. I have requested a contract. Working without a contract right now, without a signed contract, that we had one, it expired, and that's why I have been working so closely with them. We need to have a signed contract.
And just so that they realize how much the city is already putting in to the program, it may be worthwhile for you to consider somehow, on whether it's during a registration or whatever, saying how much the city is putting in for this program.
Right.
I mean, I think that the thought is that, well, they're paying all this money for ice time, we must be making a fortune on the arena, and that's not true.
Correct.
So with the city already subsidizing this facility as much as we are, I want them to be clear that this isn't, we're just not trying to
right. I think what we want to do is we want to maximize the dollars that are beneficial to both parties. I think that's a great way of saying it.
I guess I'd like to see this be a topic that definitely is picked up soon with that group and try to get back to us with some recommendations. Work with Doug if we have contacts with the associations, get that dialogue going, and hopefully.
Yeah, could I return for a question about the summer camps? You mentioned the importance of summer revenue toward finally making numbers that you budget, and you mentioned losing one camp, maybe 2 camps this past summer?
We lost 2 camps this summer, and a third one significantly declined in their numbers.
And so what is being done to replace that ice time for the coming summer?
I have been talking to different camps myself, trying to get them into Braemar. I've talked to 3 different camps. I've also worked closely with a couple of local gentlemen that have expressed an interest in purchasing ice and starting their own camps. And I think we're moving in the right direction, but I don't want to be overly optimistic like I was last year, and then we lose or somebody doesn't step up and purchase what they had promised they were going to purchase.
Do we know what other competitive rinks around town are doing to reach out, advertise, and contact people who might be interested in getting that ice time?
I'm not sure what other arenas are doing. It's a very tough market to get new camps in. I think the market over the years has been flooded with hockey schools, and I mean, every year there were many, many new hockey schools, and it was great for the arenas, but now we're seeing the downfall of that is the numbers have gone down. More and more kids are playing AAA hockey, playing on actual teams all summer long, and so I think we have seen a fall off in hockey schools. It's very tough to, once their foot is in the door at one rink, to get them to leave, to come to your rink. It could be we offer them a better price.
Doug, can I ask you a question about cost recovery? You've been right around 85%. Any sense how the other 4 competitors, St. Louis Park, Bloomington, Minnetonka, Eden Prairie, are they about the same level?
I would guess they are, but I would not, I would be guessing, yes.
I guess we can ask Mr. Scott about Eden Prairie in a minute. But they all have the same issues, I'm sure.
Yes.
It's an expensive sport, and with the economy, a lot of parents are passing for a while, I assume.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Doug.
Okay, thank you.
All right, let's circle back to 5A and B. We've got our city manager, Scott Neal, here for us. Thank you, sir.
Good evening. All right, are you starting me out here? I'm going to give you a short presentation. One right there? Got it. Good evening. It's my pleasure to be before you tonight and to give you a presentation about the results of our 2011 Quality of Life Survey. I've been doing these presentations for different staff groups, so I think for the staff that's in the audience tonight, they've all seen this once before. I know you've got a lot on your agenda tonight, so I'm gonna hit it fairly quickly. There's a section of this particular presentation that deals with some of the park-specific and recreation-specific questions that were part of the survey, and we'll get to those. And if you're interested in seeing the entire survey that was done, it is posted on our website, and you can see the questions and how they were administered by the pollster. First thing I'll tell you is just about the survey itself. Decision Resources did this survey. They are a very well-known and well-respected polling company in the Twin Cities. They do a lot of city work, they do a lot of school work, and they've done work for the city in the past, and they've done a fair amount of work for the school district in the past, too. This survey was done in April and May of 2011. 400 randomly sampled residents of Edina's results are accurate to plus or minus 5%. There are 3 basic kinds of questions in this survey. There were 142 questions altogether. There are questions about demographics, performance ratings, and a few questions about policy preferences. The mean answering time for someone was 26 minutes, and 10% of the respondents stayed on the phone over an hour with the polling company. I break down the presentation this way. Who are our residents? What do they think about us? What do they think about Edina? And what do they want us to do? This is just some basic demographics about the community. Duration of residence, how long people have lived here. And I think the important numbers there I'll draw your attention to is that almost 50% of our population have lived in Edina more than 20 years. And that compared to a couple other cities that also use decision resources to do polling work and who also have done surveys in either 2010 and 2011, this is our data compared to theirs. So the duration of residence in Edina is significantly more than some of our peer communities. The respondents of this survey, and again, I'll draw your attention to 55 and over, accounted for 51% of the sample size. We did compare this, the sample that responded to the survey to the age distribution from the 2010 census. This survey sample trended a little older than what you would expect from our census, but not significantly older. And 35% of our households have someone age 65 or older in the home, and more than some of our neighboring communities. 70% of our residents have no or preschool or school-aged children in them, and this is how that number stacks up against some of our neighboring cities. Educational levels, there were only 2 cities that asked an educational level question in this Decision Resources Survey, Woodbury and Edina. They're not all that different. So what did we learn about our residents? This is a very summarized summary, of course, but long-term residents, 75% are homeowners. We're getting older. Majority have no school-age kids in them, and they're a well-educated population. What do they think of us? These are some of the key questions and the questions that the council was most interested in the survey as a whole. And the big question that's asked in every survey that Decision Resources does is, how do you rate your quality of life in Edina? And I think it's important for you to know this isn't how do you rate the quality of the city government you have or the school district you have or the city staff that you have. This is asking someone to characterize their overall quality of life. Excellent was 90%, 8% said good. When you compare that ratio of 90 and 8 to some of our peer cities, we really stacked up very well. That's the highest number that Decision Resources has received when they've done this survey over many years, is the 90% rating of excellent in Edina this past year. Another question, all in all, do you think things are heading in the right direction in Edina? 92% said yes, a very nice affirmation of the general direction that the community is going. And again, it's the community of Edina, not just the city, not just the school, not just the business community, but the community as a whole. And this is how that question is answered in other comparable communities, so pretty comparable in Eagan. The Burnsville result, the 3-to-1, the 70-30 result is pretty comparable in other suburban communities. When you consider the property taxes you pay and the quality of city services you receive, what do you think of that value? This is the value question, where we want the citizen or the resident to reflect on the value they get for the taxes they pay. Excellent plus good compared to fair plus poor, a pretty good ratio. And again, this is how that number stacks up to our peer cities. This is a question I think the council especially liked the response to. Other than voting, do you think if you wanted to, you could have a say in the way things are run in the community? Almost 80% saying, 79% saying yes. I think that was a response that the council took to mean residents feel connected to the community and they feel responded to. And this is what that number looks like compared to our peer cities. From what you've seen or heard, this is the question where we try to get a sense of what they think of city staff. 16 plus 75, this is how we rack up compared to our peer cities. Again, pretty good. And again, what did we learn? We learned that people think they have a high quality of life in Edina. They think that the city's going in the right direction. They think they get a good value from their property taxes. They're pleased with city staff performance, and they feel like their city government's responsive to their suggestions. What do they think of you? So this is where I'm talking to the Parks and Rec staff, so that's the you in this case. How do you rate Park and Rec facilities in Edina? 90%, so the excellent plus good are pretty happy with them. This is a good question because this is a question where there was no lead given to. Remember, this is administered over the phone, and so sometimes there's a list that this person administering the survey taker, is providing the resident. This is a question where it was just an open-ended question. So are there any park and rec facilities missing from the community you'd like to see in Edina? Pretty strong consensus that no, there isn't. This is where we asked people again. This is where the survey taker went down a list of facilities and asked the respondent if they had used those facilities. And so they do get a list, and they can say yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. This gives you a sense of the facilities that people are using. What do they think of you? Is the current mix of park and rec programming to meet the need of your household? I think that's a pretty strong consensus that it does. Have you or the members of your household participated in any city-sponsored park and rec programs apart from private youth athletic associations? They made sure they tried to clarify that. So 71% said no. So going back to this question, 98% said it meets their needs, and 71% said they don't use them. So we need to do an additional analysis to see what that means, and we will. If you did participate in a city park and rec program, how do you rate that experience? 98% said excellent or good. What factors, this is a question about what they thought of Edina. What questions caused you to move here? Number one, good schools. Number two, closely behind the housing and neighborhoods. This is the question about, we just asked you, why did you move here? Now we're going to ask you, what do you like most about living here? Also sort of a proxy for what's kept you here. Convenient location, strong housing and neighborhoods is still top on the list. The general sense of community and neighborliness among Edina residents, again, 94%, very high, excellent plus good. When you consider, this is a question about trying to get a feel for tax tolerance. Do you consider taxes in Edina to be very high, somewhat high, about average, somewhat low, or very low in comparison with neighboring cities? So this asks you to have an impression of what the tax burden is in a neighboring city, for one. It also, and then asks you what your feelings are about your taxes compared to those. We had the ability in this particular question to compare it directly to a question from the 1999 survey that the city did with Decision Resources and make these comparisons. So you do see some significant changes in the numbers going up from folks that thought it was very high from 1999 to 2011, and those who thought it was somewhat low, kind of cutting in half. So this is how that data looks compared to 3 other cities who asked the same question. And this is what the city tax burden and the total tax burden was in 2010 for a $300,000 home in those 4 cities that asked this same question. Burnsville and Lakeville are in Dakota County, Woodbury is in Washington County, and we're, of course, in Hennepin County. But of course, the real comparison for Edina residents is what's going on around our immediate neighbors. And you can really see the tax differential between Minneapolis and Edina is very clear in this example, again, for a $300,000 home in 2010 tax levels. How would you rate? There's a number of questions here about redevelopment. I think I'll skip through. Transportation. We had good marks on our transportation network about ease of getting to and from work, ease in getting around town. 92% was the highest in the metro this year for people that said it's easy to get around town on the streets here. We'll skip through this. These are some questions about public policy questions we asked residents to comment on. Organized residential solid waste collection. Do you favor or oppose the city changing its current collection system? Now, you should know that there was a fairly long preamble that went ahead of this question that was explaining what the question itself was all about. But it was a fairly mixed bag when it comes to what the response was on that. And again, I think for us, this is a good response in that we need to do some additional analysis on the results, and we were going to get sometime in October. Municipal liquor stores, do you favor or oppose the city staying in that business? Strong consent that we do. Do you favor or oppose the city being involved in economic development projects? Good consensus of support for that. What do you feel is the most serious issue, if any, facing Edina? The threshold that Decision Resources told us to be wary of is 40%. When an issue kind of trends over that 40% number, it's a serious issue. So at this point, this was another open-ended question where we didn't read them a list. This is the response that we got. So 32% said nothing. That was their response. What services would you be willing to see cut to keep your property taxes where they are? I don't know what the people thought about cutting administration. That's a pretty valuable service. But it really, again, this was an open-ended question, and people could say what they wanted, and none or cut the waste, fraud, and abuse was really the leading contender. So what did we learn? Be leery of the garbage business, but stay in the liquor business, because that's a good business to be in, especially when you're a monopoly. Most residents couldn't identify a single negative community issue, and a pretty good level of satisfaction for the value of taxes they pay and the services they receive. So what do we do with this data next? We're continuing to pore through this, because the interesting information we got from the survey we've gone over already. But the next level of inquiry into this data is when we get the correlation data, the cross-tabulation data, and we get that sometime in the middle of October. And that will really allow us to do a level of analysis that I think we can use to apply to our budgeting process and developing some performance metrics that I think I've heard you kind of talking about already tonight. Great results in terms of what we got from residents who expressed a pretty high level of satisfaction here. We get good support from residents in this survey and also from our council. And I think the new data that we're going to get out of this is going to help us get even better at doing what we do. So thank you and congratulations for staff that helped put this together. I'd be happy to answer any questions about anything you saw here.
This is just a procedural question. There were 400 responses. How many phone calls were made and how many people declined up front to respond at all?
There were 400 completed surveys, which they needed to hit the statistical significance level that they were going for. They had to make 887, I believe, calls to get 400 completed calls. No, yeah, they were very pleased with that. Very pleased.
Scott, does the question about residents who are 65 or over, does that cause any concern for a city administrator?
You mean the composition of our population?
We have a lot of older folks.
Does it cause any concern? It doesn't cause any concern because I take it as a kind of a given. There isn't anything really I'm going to do about that. But it is important to recognize what portion of our population fits into those particular age ranges. One of the things we did when we took a look at this is took a look at our median age, which is 44.2, which if you compared that nationally puts us kind of right under Scottsdale and right above Fort Lauderdale. So that's where Edina is right now. But one of the interesting aspects of our demography from the 2000 to 2010 census is that the number of preschool age people in preschool or school age people, we'll call them, ages 4 to 19, that demographic group grew by 9% from 2000 to 2010. So I think that's an interesting quirk in our demography that we can also be aware of, and its impact not only on our facilities and the kind of services we provide, but obviously for the school district as well.
I would say on the question of taxation and our feeling of it being high, I get a little publicity out there given that our numbers are actually lower. Everybody that I know perceives that we run a higher property tax rate and total tax rate than our neighboring communities. I was actually kind of shocked to see that. So I think we need a little PR work on that particular end.
trying to convince people their taxes are low is something I've never achieved in 23 years of doing this job. However, putting that information out and letting them make the decision that their burden compared to their neighbors' burdens is I think is self-evident, isn't it? I think that issue is somewhat tempered by the idea that a $300,000 home is not a $300,000 home in Minneapolis. So we have to understand that, and we do, but the tax burden is something that can be measured and compared from city to city pretty easily. That information that I'm showing you is all from the League of Minnesota Cities website. They have a property tax calculator, and you can put in any city you want and compare any year tax burden you want, and it'll spit out the right information.
I have a question for both you and John. The question about what park facilities, I can't remember the exact wording, would you want to add? And there was basically, majority said none.
89%, yeah.
And I'm surprised because of the other survey about the trails. What was the wording on that question versus this one?
Well, the wording on our community attitude and interest survey that we took just a few years ago had a multiple choice to pick from. And overwhelmingly, they chose trails overall. I think this was more of an open-ended question.
Yes, it was. It was, and the question specifically was, is there anything missing? Is there anything missing from the array of park and rec facilities in the community? So it got you thinking, what is it that I can't do here that I wish I could? I think it's a significant answer, but we did not provide them a list of, do you wish you had a community center? Do you wish you had a curling court? Do you wish you had this and that?
So when people think of facilities, do you think they include trails?
I don't,
Okay.
but I don't know, and that really wasn't. I don't even think that was among trails. I don't think that was even among the responses that had a 1 or a 2 or a 3.
They did.
Had a 2%.
Did it have 2%? Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
I would think they don't. I mean, we consider them to be facilities on the accounting side of the world because it's an asset, but I don't know that the average citizen would.
Scott, did the turf fields show up at all in those numbers, buried somewhere?
Under the what's missing from the community kind of question? I don't believe so. John, do you think so? I don't think so. But again, that may be, it's hard to analyze that data without seeing a little bit deeper, but it may be that a field's a field, right? And they didn't say we're missing turf fields because we already have fields that we're playing on. It didn't ask a question about what would you upgrade if you could upgrade something. We didn't have that question.
Hopefully that question will be answered through our sports dome working group that's out there trying to determine that need.
Thank you, Scott.
Would you like to move to the budget
please.
questions? Okay. How would, Mr. Chair, how would you like to handle this? I can.
Well, there had been some individuals on the board that had some questions regarding the budget process, so that's why Scott's here. Kia, you had a question or two.
Yeah, I guess I was just looking for an overview from the full city perspective of the park, how the park budget ties in, what you are what challenges you're facing as a city, and what you think we can expect moving forward, and some of your insight.
Sure. The Park and Rec department has a number of interesting budget challenges, but it's interesting. It's one of our more interesting departments from a budgeting standpoint, structural budgeting standpoint, because it has a large portion of its operations that are within what we call our general fund, and our general fund is the primary funding stream of our general fund, our property tax dollars. Edina, the major form of revenue for the city, for the city's general fund is property taxes. We don't receive much, if any, in the way of state or federal financial support here. So when you hear bits about the changes in state, local government aid or those kind of things, that really doesn't have much of an impact on our budgets because we just don't receive that money. But most of the operations for park maintenance are within that budget, so they are competing for general fund dollars or property tax revenues, which makes their life a little more politically competitive. They're competing against the police department and the fire department and planners and assessors and public works, street maintenance, all of those kind of core services. And so that's the environment that parks maintenance is in. The other side of the Parks and Rec department, though, is in the enterprise budgets, where they do have their own revenue streams. But again, they're often exposed to more view of their budget. They're more transparent because we operate them as quasi-business budgets. And you've seen, I think you're talking about that tonight before I got here. So they don't get to hide amongst a lot of other budgets like general fund departments do when you're part of a much bigger budget fund. What we do on a typical basis is we ask departments to submit their operating budgets. We have a chance to go over those, myself and the department head. We prepare those budgets into a presentation for our city council, and we give the city council a look at the budget sometime in August. And we do that to determine first and foremost what the council's tolerance level is going to be for property tax levels, whether it's they have a tolerance to increase them a little bit or drop them a little bit. But really that's what most of the purpose of that August kind of review is at that point. In early September, the council has to set the maximum property tax levy for the succeeding year. So the council's already done that, and they approved a tentative increase of 1.8% in the city's property tax level for property tax levy for 2012. That only means that from this point on, that's as much as the city council has committed to raise the levy. And what that means is from this point on, our discussions use that as a cap, not as a floor or not as an estimate. So we continue our budgeting. In fact, the budgeting inquiry gets more detailed for staff at this time as we continue to refine that, both the revenue side and the cost structure in a downward way, with the idea that hopefully when we set our final levy for 2012, we can set a number that's below a 1.8% increase and not 1.8. So that's how we set our budget for the upcoming year. And we do the same kind of thing for the enterprise budgets, even though they're outside of the general fund.
So when you begin this process, do you have targets then, or is it based off of previous years?
I would say that the way that we did our 2011 budget was an incremental budget. It was to look at the previous year and build an increment from there, both on a service level side and a budget side. What we're doing this year is a little different than that because we're setting a 2-year budget. We're also setting a number for 2013. When we get to next year, and we're in 2012 and we're talking about the 2013 budget, we're going to be using that as a basis of comparison because the council will have already seen it. So that'll be a little different than it was the previous years.
On the enterprise side, in the aggregate, are the enterprises expected to break even? Because a lot of them are running about 80% cost recovery, and then we have liquor stores. So, I mean, essentially as a city, are we essentially budgeting that in aggregate we'll kind of break even on that side of things?
In aggregate, right?
Here anyway, looking at the business plans of, the liquor store, the golf course, the arena, the aquatic center, and it seems like kind of in aggregate we come somewhat close to breaking even, and I guess is that kind of the expectation?
Well, that's a fair question, actually, and John and I have spent some time talking about that, because I like the term you use, cost recovery, is a model that I worked with in Eden Prairie before I came here. We really focused a lot with our park board and our city council there on the concept of cost recovery expectation. So we probably aren't going to operate an art center at 100% cost recovery. If our expectation is going to be lower than that and it's okay, what number is that going to be? Is it 90, 80, 70, 60? I don't know that we've had an in-depth discussion. I know we haven't at the city council level since I've been here about what is going to be the cost recovery expectation for those enterprises. From what I pick up from the city council, I think they believe that whatever that cost recovery expectation is now, they wish it were a little higher. But they haven't added any precision yet to what they think that should be. I think they're interested in what your opinion is on that as well before they take one.
I thought they were just discussing studying the art center separately.
That is true, and I think that looking at its finances and trying to figure out in that regard what a reasonable cost recovery expectation would be, it would be part of that. But in terms of looking at each one of our enterprises and setting a cost recovery expectation for each one, and then comparing that on an annual basis to their cost recovery performance, is something that I hope we can be able to do for all of you at some point.
Yeah, I think that would be worth a discussion at a future meeting, that we would talk about just this item. And so I would like to see that as a discussion.
Part of what we plan to bring forward to the fees and charges working group, if that's what we call it, is the cost recovery analysis. And I've asked my staff to provide their percentages of what has been and feed the discussion of where it should be. Hopefully it'll lead to some policy recommendations from that group, then to the park board, and then on to the city council. And there's one other comment. As a whole, it's important to remember the Park and Recreation Department budget as a whole is about $11.8 million. Of that, just over $8 million of that is the enterprise function. The golf course alone has a budget as large as the entire Park and Recreation Department that competes for the dollar, the tax dollar. So when you put it all together, the administration, recreation, and maintenance, of which the maintenance of parks is the lion's share of our $3.2 million 2011 budget. That's the budget that competes for the tax dollar. The rest of it falls into the enterprise fund, which is where all these questions have come up.
You know, it seems to me, as someone new looking at what the budgeting custom has been in the past, has been to use liquor profits to subsidize the community amenities that we enjoy. And that's not unusual. A lot of communities do that. That doesn't mean it's the right way to do it. But in terms of using those profits to help support or hold down the costs that we have to pass along to participants or users of those facilities, when you have this discussion of philosophy, you may come all the way back around to that you like that model. But because if you do accept a proposition that we want a golf course that recovers 100% of its operating costs and all of its CapEx costs, that really drives a different kind of management at the golf course, and it may be one that you don't want to see. But I think it's important that you keep that link in mind about what your cost recovery expectation is with the operations of any of those facilities.
How is the CapEx budget? Okay, so we've talked operating budgets to some degree, but obviously Parks and Rec runs a substantial CapEx budget. Mm-hmm. Now, how does the city handle the capital equipment or the capital expenditure budget, and where are those funds out of? Is that generally through bonding and debt issues?
It is, and John, I think we don't really have much of a park improvement fund here, right? With developer fees anymore at this point, right?
That's correct. We have about a $70,000 roughly, and I'm just guessing at that. Edina is so fully developed, there really is no very much money coming into the developers fund side of life. Having said that, if the water's development becomes a reality, there may be some dollars available for the back into the developers fund. But no, you're right. For the last 2 decades, I don't think we've seen over 250,000.
One of the unique advantages that Edina has in the world of CapEx funding for its park and rec amenities is that there is a statutory provision called the Edina Rule, which allows the city to issue non-referendum debt for the improvement of its park and rec facilities, its enterprise facilities, as long as the pooled revenue of those enterprise facilities will support that debt. That's not an ability that other cities in the state have. It comes from the 1950s and 60s. Yeah, so it's been in place for a long time. But that allows you to do something you may not want to do anyway. It allows you to do a large capital improvement to a park and rec facility without asking the voters to approve it. So you could do something, we could do something in Edina that they can't do in Apple Valley in terms of capital improvements to its park and rec system.
What, when deciding which projects to fund through which mechanisms, what is considered a capital improvement project? What is the construction fund, and how should we go about deciding what goes where, when?
The construction fund is I would characterize it as the catch-all fund that we use to do our capital improvement funding. So it will have within it many different sources of revenue. Some of those may be property tax revenue. Some of it may be revenue from leftover funds. For instance, we may be closing out a tax increment fund that we've had for many years. We may have a couple of $100,000 in that fund sometimes. We can take that money and we can use it for operational expenses, but really a more prudent thing to do would be use it for non-recurring capital improvements. And so that money would go into our construction fund. So it has a lot of different sources of revenue in it. In terms of how do you make those decisions about where to prioritize your capital funding, sometimes it's as much art as it is science. I think staff could give you good advice about what facilities are in need of replacement before other facilities are. We have some ways in our transportation network of applying a grade, for example, to a particular street and having some kind of metric that allows you to prioritize those projects perhaps easier than you can a park. But in parks, you do have the ability to know when equipment was last installed, and we do regular inspections on it, and so you can get that kind of data from staff, and that can help you prioritize those projects.
So one of the questions I had last time we were looking over this is we were talking about a survey, and I can't remember the exact title, but it was Natural Resources, looking over our green spaces and doing an inventory of it. And I don't generally think of that as a capital improvement type project, but John had said that it's kind of difficult to fund that type of a project. So, I mean, do we have any risks? I don't see, I mean, that's not like, it doesn't last 10 years. You can't see an infrastructure or anything like that.
We do have in our budget, that is maybe something that distinguishes our public budgeting system from a private side, in that there are some large consulting studies that we, just because of the size of their cost, we have to prioritize into our capital funding system. So I think that one was a $100,000 study, wasn't it, John? And then we've had our new comprehensive plan for the city was also a 6-figure study. Other large consulting studies like that you would see pop up in our capital funding. And I think that is a little different than the private side.
Yeah, any other questions? If not, we'll let you step down. Appreciate your time.
Very good. Thank you for your time tonight.
All right, let's pick back up where we left off before. 5C, business plans. I think next after arena was golf course.
I'm open to questions.
I want to ask the obvious one since I'm looking at the 2011 estimated and budgeted, about $500,570 under projections, I think, in terms of revenues. Can you talk a little bit about that outcome and what's happened there?
Certainly. It has been a very tough year to be in the golf business. Weather-wise, it's the worst I've ever seen, and I believe in the history of Braemar Golf Course. Our revenues through the end of August were down about 7%, but the good news is we've cut expenses by 11%. So actually, mathematically, we're ahead of last year. So my staff has done a great job with trimming what we can, and I believe the golf course is in the best shape it's been in a long, long time. Tom Swenson and his staff have done a great job.
So I was just going through. So we're really talking about weather-related and economic-related factors regarding the greens fees, and because that's clearly where the shortfall is in terms of we're off on the greens fees and other fees predominantly, or
yes,
and equipment rental, all related to how far off are we on the number of rounds played, I guess is the question. That's not in here, but
we're down, well, overall, 7% is going to reflect pretty much what we are down in rounds.
And is there any indication that that's anything other than just kind of transitional or just due to this? There's no indication that there's new competitors in the area or that this should persist other than as far as the economy is concerned?
No, I think if the economy rebounds and if we get an average weather year, which we haven't really had for a number of years, we should be in very good shape.
Okay, good.
As far as making it operationally, as far as the budget.
I've got a couple questions, but they relate to, I'd like to hear how you're incorporating the consultant study into this business plan. And I don't know, are we going to be, is this the time to talk about that, or is there going to be discussion of this at
I've asked Todd to bring to the park board for your October 11 meeting kind of an action plan, staff's recommendation of what we learned from the study and what kind of an action plan we're going to bring forward. If you have a business plan question, that'd be a great time to bring it up.
Maybe you can clarify you're considering changing, I'm looking at this, the new 9, and I'm wondering, are you talking about the executive course, or are you talking about Clooney?
As far as changing it?
Yeah, I'll read it.
I saw that too. It says,
what page is that?
Page 9. Capital improvements could include reconfiguring the driving range to increase the length and hitting capacity by 30 to 40%, and redesigning the new 9 to improve playability. People refer to Clooney as the new 9 a lot.
Right. And I see the executive course being changed with the construction of the driving range, basically converting it back to a par 3 course, drastically reducing construction cost and reducing lost revenues that we would incur if we moved holes. As far as the Clooney, I guess I can briefly address that now. The recommendation from the NGF report was to do minor enhancements to it, but not to make a large investment in that course because there would not be the return.
So basically just trim trees and things like that they're saying, not redesign
Correct.
the Clooney, okay?
And the other difference between what I was seeing in the consultant report and here was the non-resident patron card cost. And the recommendation in the consultant report is different than this. It's not to lower it for non-residents.
We did not lower it for the upcoming year. Originally, we lowered it it started out at 110 and we went down to 90.
Right.
But I believe that was in line with what he said in the report.
I can look in the report. If you hold on, if somebody else can ask questions, I can find it for you.
For the October 11th meeting, when you come back with an action plan that speaks to some of the areas that the consulting report flagged, I would like to see some more details on our catering that's going out of the golf course. Okay. In particular, kind of what we can do to market our catering more and how we sit in the market. Are we competitive? Are we, how do we sit? And I can't remember the language exactly in the report, but I think it said for the grill that we should watch the grill for a year and a half and see how it's performing. Well, I think we should be a little bit more affirmative action on that, and rather than just watch it, maybe our plan could include a half a dozen things that we could do, so that we have something to watch and we feel as though, we're being assertive about it.
Oh, definitely. That is in our plan, so I will present that for the next meeting.
Did you find what you're looking for, Alan? I read the business plan, and it was probably just not that long after we got the golf course study. So I went back to the golf course study to read that again. And it's flattering in many ways, gives us things to be optimistic about, but it also points out some weaknesses. On at least 3 occasions, it talks about operating expenses being high for a mid-range golf course. Total operating expenses are much higher than the typical for public operation, especially in personnel costs. So when I look at the business plan, I thought we had reduced costs because we had a manager retire and we had 1 termination. But if I look from 2010, actual personnel services were at 1.636. We're proposing in 2012 1.79. So that's a 9.5% increase, when in that same period of time our rounds are down 25%.
I'd have to revisit that. Some of that information was inputted by the finance department, so I'll have to go back and talk to Eric to verify that.
Because that to me is troubling.
That would be troubling, but again, as of this year, we're down 11% as far as expenses, which is pretty dramatic, and I don't see those going up, but we are not refilling those positions, so I will have to relook at that.
Okay, I think we'd like to see that.
Sure.
Okay.
11% is personnel or just overall expenses?
Overall expenses.
Thank you.
Was that number right, that the rounds were down 25% year-to-date?
Over 2 years.
Over 2 years?
Yes, I believe that's right. Again, I'm looking more so at the revenues being down 7%.
And then I suspect the business plans were written a month plus ago. Someone optimistically said that the golf systems may break even, do 100% of cost recovery this year. You're thinking probably not?
I'm thinking we've got a very good chance.
If we don't get a lot of rain and we get a decent 4 weeks or something?
It's really tough to make it up in the fall. People lose interest and the days are so short, but I think we've got a good chance of coming very close, if not making a profit operationally, not after debt service.
How about marketing plans? I mean, in terms of trying to, what are your thoughts in terms of just trying to, aside from just going forward as we are, is there a way to generate more visibility, or thinking about ways of generating more visibility, more interest, and to attract a higher proportion of the local residents, a higher proportion, grab a little market share in this process?
I totally think that we can improve on that, and we've started expanding our marketing. This last year we were much more aggressive than we've been in the past. Building additional programming. We've got a tournament coming up in a couple of weeks that most of our tournaments are outside groups that book the course and run it, and we're looking at doing more internal tournaments in off times, building our email club list. We're up around 7,000 now. I'd like to get it up close to 10 by the springtime, and that's been a really great tool for us. We've offered certain select discounts. We haven't gone the Groupon route. We've gone the route of rewarding our good customers with offers that only they receive, and that has been just wonderful for us. For example, Clooney isn't as desirable to some people because it is, in theory, tougher. We've offered a special rate on weekends after 3, for an example, for $10, and it has helped fill that 9 and also fill the original 2 9s with customers paying the full freight. So it's those type of things have been working really well for us, and we plan to expand on that.
The Highland Ski does a real promotional effort in the middle schools in particular as they come into winter. I think the idea being if we get the kids young and get them up on the slopes, we tend to keep them for a while. Have you thought about trying to do some kind of promotional activity or something as we come into spring in the schools, in the middle schools or in the elementary schools? Get them started early, they become patrons for life probably.
Oh, definitely, and we do have a huge junior program, probably the largest in the state, but we can always expand on that. We haven't done a lot of marketing directly to the schools, but we've been at capacity for a number of years with the number of kids we can take in the leagues.
I was just thinking some of the couponing and things like Highland does, or the ski areas do, to get the kids, just get them out to the range or anything else, or not even so much as getting them into classes. But
yeah, we're going to be looking at some promotions where kids play free with a paid adult, things like that. But yeah, they are our future, so we're definitely going that direction.
I definitely think you're doing a much better job on the marketing side. I think I see that, and other people that play there see that too. Right. There was you probably know this better than I would. I think there was an economist that once said you don't want to waste a good recession to grab market share. So exactly. That's good to see. Yeah, I saw the city of Minneapolis' business plan, and the one disadvantage that we have in golf is that not only is it seasonal and we're having a tough year with the weather, but we're also in a cyclical downtrend with rounds being played throughout the country, and that's in the report as well too. The city of Minneapolis, in their plan, just right off the bat, said we foresee fewer rounds being played in 2011 as well. Therefore, we want to try to budget a $400,000 cost cutting and expenses to address that, not to include marketing. I mean that would be helpful to see. If you're down 11% on some of your costs, where does that come from, and where are you looking to do that in 2012 in case we have another wet spring?
Well, certainly, and I can summarize that in my report for the next meeting.
Okay, thanks.
Definitely.
Okay, and I found it.
Okay.
It's on page 94 of the report. The consultant lists a bunch of recommendations for fees, and you're mentioning that you're going to reduce non-patron, non-resident patron card, and he's recommending that would be $100 versus $90. And
we didn't reduce it. That's the price we went to last year, so we're keeping it the same. We've sold a very limited amount of those. If we would raise it the additional $10, I believe it would be a wash at best with fewer card sales.
Yeah, and I know that that's a really detail, but I was trying to figure out where, at the very end, the break-even scenario, and I was just trying to figure out if you were incorporating that. It sounded as if, from what I was reading, it was doable to actually change, to break even by changing what we're charging?
I don't believe that is the case, to be honest. It'll make an impact, but again, the higher the price in this economy, it's a trade-off, in a sense, for fewer rounds. So, you know, I just don't think in this economy we can really go up too much. We're going up on the individual round rate, and I see that as a trade-off. Historically, when we've gone up with the price of a golf round, we haven't gone up with the price of the patron card.
Okay. So that's not where you were doing it. I was just trying to figure out your business plan, and I was trying to find where you might have said that you're going to be. Are you going to be increasing rounds by $1?
Greens fees actually by $2.
Okay. And you think that with that's going to be enough to break even then?
Well, I don't know that it'll be enough to break even, but as opposed to raising the price of the non-resident patron card, the revenues from the increase in rounds is going to be dramatic compared to raising the price of a card.
So can I ask on the 12, your proposed 12 budget, you got revenues about 200,000 higher than you're realizing in 11. Is that based on, is that projected essentially the same number of rounds as you're seeing in 11 and the $2 increase, or are you expecting rounds to recover? I'm trying to understand the kind of what's behind the revenue estimate on that.
I guess really the rationale would be rounds, as far as participation, is flat. Weather has to be better at some point in time. That, combined with the price increase, should bring us at least that as far as additional revenues.
I'd say one last thing. The genie's out of the bottle with liquor sales. It's subsidizing a lot of these enterprises. Any consideration, I mean, we do sell beer and wine there already, having a limited like well drink menu at the restaurant, at the grill area?
It's a possibility. As far as
I mean, more high margin items, sell fewer hot dogs, low margin items, try to.
No, we're going to be definitely working on improving the grill operation over this winter, and you'll see the changes over the winter and into next spring. I think the liquor issue actually would be a decision that the park board and council would make.
I have no problem there. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Centennial Lakes? Is that what I have next year?
This is Tom Shirley, our manager of Centennial Lakes.
Hi, Tom.
Hi.
Any questions for Tom?
One fairly simple one. I just was going through your report and your plan. You don't charge an admissions fee for the ice rink, is that correct?
That's correct. It's just complementary to skate. We do make revenues off of skate rental, sled rental, and concessions.
And no, I was looking at it, you know, in combination between the admissions fee and skate rental. Your competitors, you're substantially under. Possible to pick a couple bucks up and generate a few more revenues?
We have thought about it. It would be nice to take $1 from every person that came in those doors, but currently the thought is not to charge admissions and try to make it up in skate rentals.
It could, but that's what I was wondering. Could you raise the skate rental price a couple of bucks, essentially, since you're not charging admission? Because the combination of admission and skate rental is the other. You know, somebody coming in for skate rental, they're going to pay admissions too. It looks like they're about $9 on, or, you know, $8, $9 on both of them.
The idea is to keep raising it like $1 here and there. This year we didn't want to. I think we just raised it 2 years ago to $5, and we thought we'd hold off a little and then bring it on up again. We've been making more revenues by actually increasing the skate inventory, and so we keep adding numbers of skates, and so we've almost doubled it here in the last 3 or 4 years. So that's helped.
Great. Thank you.
Sure.
And my question would be on concessions again. And I'm just wondering, when is that concession stand open? If you can talk to a little bit about who uses it, when it's open, and things like that.
We have two concession stands. Actually, there's one very small one down at our amphitheater that we just sell popcorn and pop out of in the summertime, and that's only at the bigger concerts Sunday nights and then Monday, Wednesdays. The main concession stand is actually the winter concession stand for our ice skating inside the Hughes Pavilion there.
So that's not open during the summer?
No, not at all. Yeah, we've thought about different concessions in the park there, and we just have a real struggle with all of the restaurants in that complex. It's tough to compete with McDonald's and Quiznos, those types of things. McDonald's is gone now, but.
Sorry, do we turn a profit on the concessions?
We make a very small profit in the summertime on the popcorn. The wintertime is combined in with everything else because the same staff is doing skate rental and everything. But, combined, it's about $20,000 in the wintertime.
What is the timing of the consulting report for Centennial Lakes?
I don't believe there is a consulting report on Centennial.
Oh, it's for Edinburgh. Okay. Okay, one other comment then. The statistic that blows me away for Centennial is that 80% of the patrons are from outside of Edina?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we operate more as a regional park. When we do little statistics talking to people in the park, most people are coming from the surrounding area, although typically it ends up being Edina's number one, but then closely followed by Minneapolis, Richfield, Edina, or Eden Prairie.
I'm going to get back to the concessions.
Sure.
I mean, because I quite frankly, I've been really impressed with how much money we can make at the Aquatic Center on concessions. So I kind of look at it saying there is potential if we do it right, I think. And so I'm wondering if we could look into whether offering ice cream in the summertime or some other cafe or something else in the summertime in that area. Maybe even, I mean, I know this might sound hokey, but now that you're taking care of the promenade, an ice cream bicycle or something that goes up and down.
Oh, sure.
But I'm just trying to tap into the fact that so many, just on the survey, so many people go to that park, and it's so well used that I would think that even looking at the way Lake Harriet has that the window from their pavilion out,
sure,
to service other people, I would consider looking at that as a source of revenue in the summertime.
Sure.
On the miniature golf course, do you sell a lot of those punch cards? Or what percentage of the rounds that are played are through the little punch card purchases versus just somebody coming up there with cash?
Very few right now, and the only reason is it's something we've just kind of started out, we're just experimenting with, and so we haven't really advertised the punch card for putting.
Okay.
Wanted to see how that went, but so all of our, almost 99% of everything we do there is just the daily admission.
How do you track the punch cards as they go out, that, how many you have, how many have gone out, who's using them? Do you have any way of doing that?
The only way we currently do it is it's a numbered system where the card itself is numbered, and then as they punch it in, it's punched in on a register, so there's a key that'll say that it was redeemed for that time.
We were talking about like cash controls and things like that at Braemar. It's got to be a little more difficult at the miniature golf course there because people aren't swiping credit cards. I would imagine it's more cash.
Yeah, it's really turned on. We do take credit cards and debit cards now, and so it's about 40% debit and credit cards at this point.
Okay. Yeah. I just had a while back a couple of seniors that live over in that area say that they notice that, sometimes they think people just go out on the course, and if it's got to be hard for you sometimes with young employees, maybe letting friends go out on the course. You can't be there all the time, but is there any point of sale system that we can use at that course to monitor punch cards that are being sold, cash coming in, cash going out versus just a cash drawer?
We have been working actually with the finance department this year, and so we are coming up, we actually have been using the system this whole year, but everyone is supposed to get a receipt that will then be their ticket onto the course itself. And for the most part, when it's busy, they can't sneak on. People in front or behind them will kind of say something, and we can kind of keep an eye on it. Typically, it's when it's a little slower and there's some open holes where someone theoretically could jump on down somewhere, and we wouldn't know it. But it's a tough one. Yeah, there's probably always going to be a few people that can sneak on that way, but we're thinking it's pretty limited at this point.
Well, it's a great asset. I'm amazed that the greens are in as good a shape as they are for as much foot traffic that's directed down those little narrow pathways, you know.
Yeah, those tee boxes take a beating by the end of the summer, but they're looking great now. So.
May I ask, the cost enterprise recovery page for us puts Centennial and Edinburgh together?
Currently it does, yeah. I believe they're still breaking that out for 2012 now.
Do you have any sense on the Centennial side what the cost recovery roughly has been for the last several years?
Yeah, we're right around 80%, and that's including the promenade. Right now, I think this last year, Centennial Lakes was budgeted to lose about $70,000. The promenade was then about 84, if I recall.
And then the farmers market, is there any profit there, or is it run as a delightful community resource, which seems to attract an awful lot of people?
Yeah, we made a little bit last year, about $2,600 this year. This Thursday is actually the last market of the season, but we should come in right around $6,000 profit, so a little something anyway.
Great, thank you.
And since we have talked a little bit about alcohol and selling alcohol, and it is in your business plan, I would like to make sure that before you go any further on that, the park board has a chance to discuss whether or not they feel that that's appropriate.
Sure, yeah, definitely.
The Hughes Pavilion pricing seems quite moderate, I guess, particularly peak season. Have you ever considered, like, during the peak wedding season of June or some of the key months to, $1,500? I don't think you'd receive any price resistance for a Saturday or a Sunday, a Friday or Saturday wedding. So,
Yeah, we are starting to bring it up a little bit every year. We've actually been stagnant for 3 years, and it's kind of overdue. We're recommending a $100 increase for this next year, and then we're going to see how people react to that and continue to bring it up as much as market will bear. Yeah, right now there tends to be where it's booked solid Friday, Saturday, June, July, August, even September. So there's definitely some increase that is justified.
thanks.
And I'm just doing some brainstorming, but I know you're trying to figure out whether or not the space for croquet is profitable, or if it might be better used with a different activity. Have you considered sand volleyball?
That was on one of the original plans, actually, sand volleyball. Got pulled off, just wasn't a good mix without parking and everything over there, we thought. The croquet lawn bowling right now only brings in, this year it'll bring in about $11,000, which is pretty much break even for that large chunk of space. So.
Yeah, and I'm looking at, our youth are looking for places to go and things to do, and that is such a great park for them. But if they had another activity, I think that, I don't know if, I think you could probably charge for time. I don't know.
Well, we currently have a sand volleyball court at Roslyn Park, and from our observation, it gets used, but very limited. I'm not sure how successful we'd be at charging, being it wouldn't be next to a sports bar. But it's something, like Tom said, was in the original plan, but fell to the side.
I do think that you should consider other options.
Sure,
Just,
you bet.
And I don't know if, a bouldering wall, I don't know if that probably isn't something you can really make money on. I don't know, but it does look like it's a space that could possibly be used some other way.
Yeah. Well, we totally agree with that.
Well,
We're open
Pinstripes
to
is right over there.
suggestions.
They might want to have some sort of a partnership with a lawn bowling event. Start off at our end and go over their end. Anyhow. Thank you, Tom.
Sure.
Ann? Any questions for Ann?
Just let me try a general and rather obvious question, given that this is for Edinburgh Park.
Correct.
Given that we have a consultant reviewing the operations there, how much of the business plan budget is now sort of under contingent, or can you place very much on hold pending the results of the study, and if so, what? Or do you have some sort of triage plan that might limit expenses until we get that study report?
That's a great question, and I really have been trying to put major CIP items on hold for the past couple of years with this thought in mind. And I've also budgeted CIP out a year or two, also with that in mind. The item that we did go ahead with this year is the concession stand, based on the significant revenues that we will generate from that. But otherwise, we pretty much have tried to create a plan with different scenarios in mind, and I think you would see that referenced in the business plan. You're welcome.
Yeah, I was delighted to see the numbers of people that go through that park. That really surprised me, both in terms of the birthday parties and just users.
Thank you. It really is amazing. We do about 1,250 birthday parties a year, and average almost 20 people a party. So we're hopping, especially during the winter months.
Well, I've been talking revenues with everybody else. Congratulations, you're up 10 points over budget, it looks like, about 100,000 above. Is that weather related? You given that you're indoors? Or
Sorry,
is
Todd.
It, I mean, but what do you? I mean, looking at it, obviously the admissions are up and the building rental are up. Is that the birthday? I mean, is that emphasizing birthdays more?
The building rental actually, I hate to say it, but we can't take credit for. It was an accounting mix-up. There were some dollars that were given to somebody else a few years back that was given to us. So our birthday parties are up. Our general admission revenues are up, and I do have to say that it definitely is weather-related. But also having said that, I am very proud of the numbers considering the recession. Our numbers have not only stayed the same, but increased in the past few years. So I think we're doing pretty well.
Do you have any sense in how many folks who use the park are non-Edina people?
You know, we did a major survey last year. We got about 600 responses, and about 13% were Edina residents. And I did talk to all of the competitor facilities in the area, and the most similar facility to Edinburgh, it's really difficult to compare because there isn't a facility that's quite like Edinburgh, but the most similar facility to Edinburgh is the New Brighton Community Center, because they have a major play structure that most people would consider to be Edinburgh's biggest competitor. And they are at about the same percentage, and they also include their area code. So it's New Brighton, Mounds View, and I think part of Shoreview, and they're at about 13% as well. So I think 13%, like Tom said, for Centennial, we are definitely a regional park. And when you look at the overall number of visits that we see a year, even at 13%, that's a lot of Edina visits.
As I told you, when we take the grandkids there on a Saturday when they visit from Illinois, and they want to go every Saturday, they're here, sitting in Adventure Park, you get tired watching the kids race up and down all the stuff, but you hear a lot of conversations from other grandparents and parents.
Try chasing them around in there, Dan.
and the comment I hear the most is, this is the best kids park in the Twin Cities. And people, I know some people came from Mounds View or one of the northern Ramsey suburbs, kind of a long drive, but they said this is the one the kids love. Congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate that. We hear it a lot. Thank you.
Thanks, Ann.
Thank you very much.
Mr. McColda? Any questions for Ed on the Aquatic Center?
Ed, how do you sell so many concessions?
Well, should I blame it on the weather? No, I think concessions the last few years we've really looked at and recognized, as other things have flattened out, it's a revenue source that we can't forget. And so we really try to generate that 70 to 75,000 within our 80-day summer season. That's our net. That's what we try to net in that department.
Ed, what's the status of the swim school this past year and the upcoming year, and how is that sort of integrated into the overall operation?
Our Learn to Swim program, we sent out RFPs the end of the summer season because we've just completed a 2-year contract with the Martha Burns Swim School. There were 3 parties interested, the Edina Swim Club, Foss Swim School, and Martha Burns Swim School. The successful RFP was Martha Burns Swim School. So we have just signed on for 2 more years. What they do is they basically run from 8 a.m. until 11:30 a.m. our plunge pool, which is the pool at the bottom of the water slide, the diving well, and the step and entry. And they have anywhere from probably infant to, 10, 11-year-olds taking lessons.
Is that a significant source of revenue, and what kind of turnover or staying power does a swim school have with people continuing to use the facility as the kids get older?
As far as significant, I would say no. That dollar shows up in our rental. Our primary revenue source is still our season tickets. However, our daily admission has almost caught season tickets. Next largest would be concessions, followed by our rental. Our rental is not only the Learn to Swim school, but we've had 2 competitive swim teams in the past sharing the space from 6 a.m. to 11:30. We generate roughly about $40,000. So again, it's a very small percentage when we're $900,000 facility.
Does the swim school offer any springboard diving programming?
Not at this time, but they are looking at next year adding I think you call it a paddle course, or it's where these athletes, I'll say, looking for exercise, a new form of exercise, they stand on like a surfboard and they paddle. They're looking to begin that next year. They've also talked about scuba. And back to Park Board Member Lowe's, I would say, yes, a lot of the Learn to Swim participants do end up paying the daily admission or season ticket and extend their stay when they're done with the lesson.
Ed, I'm just looking at your 12 and 13 projections. Given the growth in admissions, do you expect to, I mean, you're at 320 this year estimated, you're projecting 280 and 284 over the next 2 years. Do you expect a decline or just need to be updated? I mean, honestly, do you expect to keep this growth in daily admissions that you've seen?
Well, I think you're looking at a sheet of paper I don't have yet. It's still buried. I think you're looking at our budget, which is probably the next item. I'm kind of focused on the business plan right now.
No, we're trying to do budget and business plan at the same time.
Oh, we are? Okay. I can unbury that. As far as 12 and 13, or, hold on. As far as 12 and 13, the big change, I think, in our season tickets and our daily admission is the flow rider. And it's hard to project. In the business plan, you'll see that I'm stating or anticipating roughly about a $75,000 increase in revenue, looking to sell about 4,000 daily passes and about 1,200 add-ons to the season ticket. So those are, but again, it's, you know, it's rough, but I do anticipate that amenity to add interest to the facility, and you know, I think I may be conservative. I think you'll also see your concessions number go up as we add that foot traffic.
That's what I was wondering. Now, so how many, the 320 projection for or the estimate of 2011, that's not a projection anymore, the season's probably done, on the admissions, I mean, that's a you know, fairly hefty bump over the original budgeted. So how much was were the actual ticket, was there a rise in the ticket prices that led to that, or was it just that you had a lot more traffic on a daily basis?
I'm going to have you repeat that question. Okay, we're looking at what year?
I'm looking at your budgeted 11 versus your estimated 11. I mean, it's good news. You know, your budgeted, I think, if my eyes don't deceive me, was 250, and you're doing 320.
Well, again, that's again what I like to do in the budget process is underestimate revenue and maybe overestimate expenses, and then look like a champion at the end of the day. What I budget and then what is estimated is probably a difference between myself and finance. Part of that is when we're doing this, you don't know what Mother Nature's going to do. Mm-hmm. The actual for admissions is actually like $340,000 for this past summer, but we had a fairly good weather year where it may have hurt another facility.
Okay. Thanks, Ed.
Where are we sitting with the flow rider? Where are we sitting with the flow rider?
It's been a slow start. Obviously, bid opening was back on June 1st, went to council the end of June, and then we had the state of Minnesota shutdown. I got the approval from the state of Minnesota, or I should say the city of Edina got the approval from the state of Minnesota September 8th, and as we speak tonight, it's sitting in the building department waiting for their authorization. So that'll be the next hurdle to get over. Hope to have that soon so we can get moving on a concrete basin for the amenity to be dropped into.
When do you foresee getting that back? And we're running, can they, at what point this year is it no longer able to put that concrete base in? Can they do that in the middle of winter? I mean,
well, you know, I was at a meeting on Friday morning, kind of a pre-con out there, and the concrete guy ended up leaving. We had XL Energy there, and they also had unfavorable news for us. It seemed like their construction date to move a transformer that needs to be moved was the end of October. We're trying to push that forward. If XL cannot move that transformer until late October, November, you're going to see a lot of work done in the spring.
Thank you. All right, if there's no further questions, I think we can move along, if that's okay with everybody, to item 5E, 2012-2016 capital improvement plans.
If it's okay with the Park Board, what I'd like to do is kick this off with a very brief presentation on the Park and Rec Department side of the CIP. I only have like 6 slides to show you by PowerPoint, just to remind you where we left off and where it stands today. Okay, the 5-year capital improvement plan for the Park and Rec Department, separate from the enterprise facilities. As you recall, this is a 5-year plan, and it's a 1-year budget. So we try to plan out 5 years, and of course we have to be flexible from year to year. The priority criteria, as you recall, I brought up at the meeting a couple weeks ago. It's our the highest priority, and this is in accordance with the results of our needs assessment surveys, to repair or replace our worn infrastructure first before we add new capital to the mix. To maintain our existing infrastructure was the number one thing we learned from this survey, and number 2, as we talked earlier tonight, to maintain and add more biking and walking paths. Now, with that, what's in front of you, nothing here has really changed from your meeting a couple weeks ago. $680,000, and as you recall, staff recommended that you put the natural resource inventory assessment at least on hold for now. Never to say never, but just for now, especially with economic times the way they are. I still stand by that recommendation. Of course, it's your call to whether you go forward with that or not. So that's for 2012, and then the next 4 years as a plan really hasn't changed. You know, it goes from the comfort station renovation of Bredesen, with the renovation of the senior field at Pamela, come pathway lighting at Lewis, the south parking lot at Pamela expansion, as well as other parking lots expansion, the north and west at Pamela. 2014, to build the new athletic field, and we need to get the parking in place before we build the field. 2015, starting with the replacement of the Worman House shelter building at Normandale. And looking far out 5 years to complete the master plan for Van Valkenburg Park. With that, a couple things. I had received a question from Member Jones that I'd be happy to answer now, if that's all right. And thank you for that email. Ellen asked, to start with, the question of developing a Park and Rec master plan as a whole. And I think the response from me, we've had master plans for all 40 parks. And believe it or not, all 40 of those have been developed with the exception of Van Valkenburg Park. Now, if we're talking about a redevelopment and revisiting like we have for Countryside and recently for Pamela, that's something that certainly could be looked at, and to enter into consulting services. Is that the direction you were headed?
No, actually, what my question was it had to do with a master plan for all of the Edina Park facilities, so that we can take a look at capital needs and replacement plans and just more of a total park master plan. And the reason that this comes up is because I'm sitting on two different committees where people are asking me questions about whether we need an indoor athletic facility and what the needs are there and whether or not there's space somewhere in Edina for that. And I'm also sitting at the Grandview meetings where we're discussing potentially a new redevelopment where there may be some green space, maybe a park, maybe a recreation center. But the question always comes back to, well, are we utilizing our facilities as fully as we can? Are we doing that in the most economical way possible? Should we consider as a park board shifting some uses in order to gain some cost savings? Should we look at, it's a big question to think about. On top of, well, are we maintaining our parks? There's, and how do you budget for the 13 playgrounds that are going to be need to be somehow either totally redone or renovated within the next 10 years. So what I'm looking at is, I think the Transportation Commission in Edina has done a pretty good job of saying, well, for the next 15 years, we're going to be taking one look at each neighborhood and plotting out where they're going to need their streets and road repair. And they have a plan for that so the neighborhoods can get together, have some warning. And it's part of I don't know how many year cycle, but I think it's at least 20. And I'm looking for something like that for the park district, not only for the neighborhood parks and facilities, but I'm thinking about our pool is getting older. We do need to figure out, well, it's a wonderful facility, but I think that we need to have a bigger plan.
Sounds kind of like you want a capital improvement plan, but you want to see a few more chapters behind it. Like what, is that essentially what you're looking for in a way?
Yes, but usually other cities have, it's done professionally, and they go through a needs assessment. They go through, they take everything that we're gathering from our pricing and our inventory, and they put it into a bigger picture. Mm-hmm. I think that we're doing a really good job of looking at each enterprise entity kind of in a silo. But what we need to do is take a look at the bigger picture and see if there is something else that we, some other way that we can be planning ahead. I think that as we look at some of the things that are on the park's long-term plan, I just want to make sure that we don't lose sight of planting the trees that need to be planted. And I don't want to be reactionary by having, perhaps one neighborhood coming forward and saying, well, what about my neighborhood? Can we get a new facility? I would like it to be part of a bigger plan.
What do other cities do? I mean, how do they put together a master plan for their parks?
Well, a couple things. I think I'd like to give that some thought before trying to respond intelligently to that tonight. It's great to have a vision. I think what I'm hearing is the vision that you see and the comprehensive plan that we just forwarded to the Metropolitan Council doesn't cut it, that it is not comprehensive enough. You would like a grander plan, and maybe there's some vision that we haven't captured through all of the input to the community, our work sessions and our comprehensive plan that needs to be revisited.
I know Ellen's brought up a few times where she'll ask, about parks and their jungle gyms, what's the schedule for replacement. And I've had a few people ask me about like Roslyn Park. When is Roslyn Park ever going to be redone? And I don't know. I mean, it's not on the 5-year plan. And maybe that would be something, you can look at your street and say, my street is getting redone in 2016. And you could say, well, Roslyn is 15 years old, it's scheduled for replacement in 10 years, and you've got an answer for people.
We have that in a schedule that is in your packet.
Oh, we do have that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Every one. And they're based out on a 20, 25, 30, there's a variety. It was included in your packet that was requested of staff at the last meeting. So we did that. It was a 15, a 20, and a 25-year plan. It shows the year that each playground was developed. This one? It should have been in your packet. If it wasn't,
Oh, right there.
yeah, there you have it. So, for example, we'll take at the very top, Lewis Park, installed 1995. A 15-year replacement would be 2010, a 20-year 2015, and a 25 2020. Now, planning is not always a perfect science when you're dealing with replacing equipment being used by the public. These are visited routinely, and some need to be replaced sooner than we had planned, and some can last longer than others. Some can be renovated rather than completely replaced, which is a more cost-effective approach, which I think you'll see some of. But I get back to what, and you make some good points. I just want to be sure I understand what it is you're asking the park board to consider. I'm not sure I fully understand on the master plan.
Okay, and I've seen other cities' master park and rec plans, and what they contain is kind of a broader vision of how they're going to maintain their facilities, with understanding that if they can schedule the replacements, then, for example, Mr. McCullough did a wonderful job working with the neighborhood, creating Chowan Park this year. But I know that that takes time. And so that if we don't come up with a long-term vision saying we're going to allocate staff time for how many parks can we possibly put staff on in 1 year, the plan that you presented in the packet has that would almost be one staff's full-time job if in the year that.
Not necessarily, no. Is it strictly playgrounds that you're?
No. Okay, so that's just one aspect, and I'm just saying that we need to take a look at and see are our facilities being used? Should we continue using, for example, the facilities that are not even just enterprise facilities, but the senior center? Is there a better way to meet the needs of seniors than in a separate building? And I'm not saying that that's my suggestion, because I don't want to make anybody worried, but I am saying that as we look at how what our plans are, we need to keep open minds toward all of these things, because quite frankly, it doesn't, from the needs survey, nobody wants to raise their taxes, and we're spending a lot of money, and I don't know how we're going to be able to maintain Edinburgh or Centennial Lakes when the trust fund goes without raising taxes. So I do think that we do need a bigger long-range plan that will include everything so that somebody can make some decisions about what we're going to do in the future.
You know, it'd be helpful for me is if you brought in like a copy of a master plan that some other community uses, and then give us some idea of what that costs to do. I mean, if you're outsourcing it, or what would that take as far as staff time? I think it might be helpful.
I think they normally do use consultants.
At what cost?
I have no idea.
You want to dig on that a little bit? Can you research that a little bit?
Yes.
Okay.
Are you looking for something more like these business plans that enterprise facilities have for the whole park system?
I'm looking for a way for us to make sure that we don't lose sight of the long-term vision when we are looking out at a 5-year CIP.
I think and we need to we need to move on to some degree. I think what we're looking for is a strategic plan for the parks, for Edina Parks and Recs, that looks out and says, what are the needs going to be? What's the where are the demographics going? What are the needs going to be over the next decade plus kind of thing? And then how do all of the other parts and pieces that you've already done fit into that? That's a big undertaking.
Yes, it is.
That's a very big undertaking, but I want to get specifically. So what you're recommending on 12 is we drop the 100,000 for the natural resources assessment. You go down the budget down to 580. Was that my understanding?
That's correct. And before we go further on that, would you like me to answer the rest of Ellen's questions?
Okay, so I take it that you're going to, I'll get back to you with this, that it will not be, it'll be, I can get back to you in the October meeting on the specifics.
I think that'd be helpful.
Okay.
If you think that's enough time for you to do your research, it's only a couple of weeks away.
It's a couple, and I don't know if I'll be able to find out how much those cost. But if I do, then it may or may not be able to be put into the capital improvement plan. Is that something that we could decide next meeting if we want to do this?
Oh, I think so.
Okay.
I think so. If I can just try to get through the rest of she's got 4 other questions. To fix the fencing around Bredesen Nature Area in 2012 budget, what we were relying on to replace the fencing there is some of the watershed district dollars that become available. And there's not going to be those funds available next year, but we anticipate hopefully we can apply for funds in 2013. That's and that's to be a matching basis, if not even more, from them. So that's something we can certainly look at. Because I asked Vince about that, and that was the answer I got. Does that answer your question there?
So you're deferring it for a year, hoping to have alternative sources for funding?
Correct. To buy recycling containers in the 2013 budget, I think what we need there is a little more dialogue on recycling in the parks and what direction we want to go. Vince and his staff conducted their own study, contrary results to what you heard at the last meeting from Diane Plunkett-Latham. And I still think there's some more research we can do to how can we better improve our recycling program in general to avoid some of this contamination that takes place. Our results show that it's about 75% of the time it's contaminated to a point it would take a tremendous amount of staff time to sort, clean, and put away. And so there's some other things we're looking at. I went to a session at the state conference last week for that very thing and learned a little more what Three Rivers does, and I've got our health department in contact with that presenter. So we're going to look at some things to improve that. I think it's premature to budget anything at this point. We're going to show you our numbers at a later date and come up with some policy decisions on where we go with it.
Okay.
Okay. Examine playgrounds for safety in the 2013 budget. This is something we do on a routine basis. We have professional park maintenance staff that go to playground safety equipment training. So they are trained what to look for, whether playgrounds are safe or not. So we've got that covered through our operational budget.
Okay.
Okay? And then lastly, to develop a phased plan for remodeling and updating the golf clubhouse in the 2012 budget. I'd be a supporter of trying to funnel some dollars to the golf course to make some of the improvements that are going to be cost-effective immediately, like the consultant is recommending. As far as putting a ton of money into the clubhouse, of course, he's not recommending that. But I think I'd hold off on this one any further until we hear Todd's action plan at the October 11 meeting. Back to where we, sorry to interrupt you there.
No problem.
But no, you're right. I am recommending you hold off on the natural resource study.
If you're recommending hold,
At the last meeting, I was a little concerned about this. I did read the Northfield report, which was and that had so much detail that I don't think it would really be helpful to the city of Edina. There is already a Hennepin County natural resource assessment report that was done that is quite good, and maybe, we should all take a look at it. But here's my thought. Rather than delay it, I think that's what your recommendation was, delay the study. I would prefer not to delay it. I would prefer to delete this rather than delay it, because then we just pass it on to our next board.
it's been 7 years since,
Let's kill it.
I'd make a motion to remove the natural inventory assessment from the CIP. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Okay.
And you don't want to put that money somewhere else?
We'll talk about that.
John, can I get back? I had a question on the arena CapEx earlier, and I'm just trying to understand. I'm looking at the arena fund budget and the 2011 projected versus the estimated.
I don't mean to cut you off, but if we could finish the Park and Rec CIP and get action on that, and then move on the others. And before I ask you to make a motion to that effect, staff was also asked to prioritize the unfunded projects that we had made you alert to. And this was staff's recommendation. And if you have things in there that you wanted to move into the active CIP in the next 5 years, if you have a different vision, I think that was part of going through that exercise. If there's any questions.
Yeah, I had a question for, on our past CIP for the golf course, didn't we have designated like $500,000 for the? Can
we complete this?
Yeah, I was going to talk about moving something up here.
Okay.
Because if we're removing the natural inventory assessment, my wish would be to get in 2012 the driving range reconfiguration and the reconfiguration of the executive course there, turning it into the par 3. Oh, I think that's long overdue. Okay. It's something that will immediately have a return on the investment on the driving range, and that's what I would like to see put on there.
As part of the tax-supported CIP to funnel some of that money into the golf course?
If it's possible. If we're removing the $100,000 there, if in future years we've reduced the cost at the Golf Dome from $500,000 to $140,000, we can pay for that renovation right there.
Well, that doesn't suggest the money is there if you're talking about the enterprise budget, but there are dollars here out of the 680. If your recommendation is to take the 100 from the natural resource study and earmark it for the golf courses, or did I misunderstand?
No, that's what I would like to. That's my recommendation.
That is a departure from past practice. That doesn't mean it's wrong. That means something you can certainly recommend to the council. My own view, I support that. I was hoping we could take some of the revenues that were in excess of our expenses, the surplus, if you will, from the 2010 budget, and funnel that somehow to pay off the outstanding debt and get them more debt-free sooner. And what we learned is that is not callable debt. By law, we have to pay those who bought those revenue bonds, and we can't pay it off early. It can only be paid off as it is scheduled for, which is 2013. Now, having said that, maybe, and I would support a recommendation that would try to funnel some of these dollars to speed up the process at the golf course and get them solvent a little quicker.
Well, I can just tell you that the range, and this has nothing to do with staff or maintenance, it gets you a lot of use, and it's in really rough shape. I emailed you a picture of it. I could bring it up here and show it to people. You're basically hitting off of dirt, you know, and it's, for a lot of people, it's the first impression that they get. They come to the course, you hit balls, and that's what you see. And it's a profitable part of that enterprise if we can expand it by 30 to 40%. I think it's a no-brainer to try to get this done sooner rather than later.
The other recommendation, if you're going to go down this road, I would encourage you to consider making it at the very least, a matching, or to suggest that maybe some of the memorial funds
That's a good idea.
Be partnered to get the job done, partnered with some of these dollars.
The other thing that's happening too is some of our other competing courses, Todd, maybe you know this better than I do, are upgrading their driving ranges. Was it Dewan that I heard is improving their range, and we could turn a profitable part of that enterprise.
Yes, they're taking their Highland course. They've got 2 executive courses and converting one of them into the inner course that you're driving. I don't really know the status at this time where they are in that project, but that would be a direct competitor to us. And if we were able to go ahead and have the premier range in this area, we would draw from all over the metro area.
Yeah, because people that I talk to that want to hit balls towards the end of the year, they're electing to go as far as the wilds to hit balls off of. They just have far more room. You're limited by the space that you have there to properly stagger, you know, the number of days that you're hitting off a specific area. To at some point, you're just hitting off of dirt.
Most definitely. And without expansion, there's really nothing we can do as far as improving that turf quality.
I'm just saying, as a golfer, I think it's a priority, and it would make sense.
I'm all for it.
Would this be a part of the October 11th presentation that you're going to make, Todd?
Sure, definitely. If I hear some dollars are freed up, I will definitely make that a priority.
If I would suggest this, if these improvements are specifically designed to be revenue producing, I'd like to see some estimates about what kind of revenue and what the payback on the investment is going to be.
I will definitely bring that in the report.
Yeah, cost estimates as well. I mean, I don't want to randomly throw 100,000 in your direction. No offense. I'd like to know what it's going to cost before we make any kind of a decision.
Definitely, I will contact an architect for that and get some rough estimates before that meeting.
Let me one quick question. Backing up, was not this a part of the consulting recommendation?
Yes.
So this would just be perhaps, I don't know what's coming on October the 11th, but this might be moving that forward in time as an investment that you weren't contemplating on implementing.
Well, from the staff perspective, we don't have the dollars. So if something changes,
I didn't know that.
Then regardless, it should be our first priority of anything we do as far as improvements.
So if you can get the dollars,
correct.
What would be the cost and what would be the payback taking into account the costs?
Yes, I will put that in the report.
I suppose the other question would be if, assuming there's 100,000 to earmark toward the project, would that, coupled with the memorial funds, be enough to get the job done?
Again, I'll have to get some current estimates. The ones we're working off of are probably close to 10 years old because it's been on hold that long. Okay. So it is a buyer's market right now, so hopefully the prices would come in low.
I thought NGF had some estimates as to what that reconfiguration would cost.
They did, and I think that is a little bit low, and that does not factor in any type of building at the far end of the range, a teaching building. We could probably phase it and do the range and worry about a building later just to get it going.
Can I just have to put another perspective on this. And I guess it's because I'm not a golfer. So I want to just say right there that I'm going to put that one out there. But our city is supporting the golf facilities with a whole lot of money each year. And as I look at what we're also supporting, what we were about $62,000 in the red this year. The debt is about $300,000 to service that each year, and then if you add in 2012, the current CIP, the $335,000 for that, I have a problem thinking that we would put another $100,000 into our golf program. I know what you're saying. I know that there's costs to recover, but ideally they're going to be breaking even next year, and they'll be then having money in their golf fund to run these programs. They currently have already $300,000 in a gift to them that they could use for this if they wanted to. But the baseball league is looking for lighting that is, we could do a whole lot on our other capital improvement plan projects. We could really go down the list pretty far if we use that money some other way.
I understand that. I know there's a lot of things that we'd like to do, but it's a living, breathing asset, and it's at a point where I feel that at the tail end of the season, I hate to say this, but it feels almost unusable. People still use it. They pull it back to hit on mats, but I think you have an opportunity here to improve it. There's a return on the investment that's even mentioned in here, that it's a worthwhile investment to make. Our neighboring communities, in the meantime, are improving their driving ranges, and it's kind of, I think, akin to the conversation that we had in regards to the flow rider. If you're not making enhancements to your facility or improving your facility, you're falling behind. So I don't want to see like jungle gyms, go unrepaired, and walking paths go by the wayside. But if we just reallocate $100,000 that we are throwing at a natural inventory assessment, and if we can get some of the memorial funds, I personally think not just being a golfer, I just think it's a priority.
I think this is an economics question, to be honest. If that $100,000 has a rapid payback, if you're going to see substantial expansion in usage of the driving range and therefore revenues and profits, in essence, from the driving range, then this $100,000 looks like a reasonable investment. But I'm a little skeptical until I see some numbers that would justify it. If it can begin generating, we can look at it as a loan to the golf course, and the golf course can return the money, and the next round can go down the list of funding, and maybe return it with a little interest. I mean, if there's positive economics here, then it absolutely makes sense. If it's not positive on the economics, then it sticks in the priorities with everything else. And so it's really an economics question as far as I'm concerned. What's the model look like? What's the revenue model look like? So how fast is that investment going to be paid back? That's a real bottom line question to me on this one.
Most definitely.
John,
go ahead.
No, I was going to say to try and blend Ellen's point in this discussion we're having, that raises the issue that we have enterprise facilities and we have the Park and Recreation Department. And were this to go through, no matter the economic attractiveness using a payback methodology or whatever, we are moving money from one part of the system to another part of the system. If we just think in terms of the enterprise budgets, I'm inclined to think that there are a number of capital projects which would have some sort of potential economic benefit throughout the enterprise facilities, that this suggestion could be thrown into the hopper on a priority list, and we would have 3 or 4 capital expenditures to take a look at in the enterprise facilities, and we would choose them based upon a payback period, essentially how much revenue can you produce, how fast. The thing with Park and Rec is we're not producing revenue generally. We're doing this as custodians, as trustees for our community and for the public land. So I guess I hesitate. I'm quite willing to look at the numbers, which is what I was a part of suggesting. But I think we do have to take into account the fact that if we change this money, what are some other possible priorities that we might have within the park and recreation system itself? So having said that, I still would like to see the numbers generated, but is there a list, a capital improvement list, that this would become a part of 2 or 3 or 4 projects that we are assessing or judging based upon their rate of return?
To follow up on Bill's comments, that's why I had those questions for Scott Neal about our funding mechanisms, because I wanted to know the precedent that has been set, because I believe it has been set up for good reasons. And so I also would have concerns about passing it this way, not that this isn't a great project, and I also would like to see the numbers. But to break from that precedent might have future implications as well.
Well, then I guess could you get some numbers for us and bring them to our October meeting? That'd be helpful.
Will do.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
John, what's the status of the Waters project? And that totally changes what kind of opportunities we have. I believe it's $600,000 that could come into the system. What's the status of that, and what is your thinking on that currently if it does happen?
From the last I talked to, our planning department head tells me that now it sounds like it could be delayed at least another 12 months. So if the permit doesn't come in, if they don't make the request, they don't pay the fee until they choose to. So the dollars won't be there to finish the master plan. But I would still strongly recommend we go forward with what we have in the capital improvement plan, to go forward with the playground equipment and the pathway for 2012. That can still be done without the Waters Development money. Unfortunately, it doesn't accelerate the development of the master plan, but we are in need of new play equipment, I think, and it's time to give the neighborhood something back. I was hoping we could get a skating rink back in there, but the way that things are going with the Waters doesn't look like that's going to happen.
So procedurally, where do we go from here? We have moved and removed the natural resources inventory assessment. So then do we approve the budget at this point at 580? Or do we approve it at 680 with 100,000 to be allocated at a future point? Procedurally, I'm not quite sure where we go from here.
Well, if I understand the discussion, a great dialogue, that you're going to hold on to that 100,000 for a discussion at your October 11 meeting, whether to go forward with earmarking it to the golf course or not.
So
that's what I'm hearing. I think.
That's what I'm guessing. And so what we're doing is we're going to approve a $680,000 CIP for Parks and Rec, with 580 allocated and 100 be allocated in the future.
Correct. That's what you're going to be recommending to the council if you agree with that.
Okay. I'm happy to move it. It's getting late. Do we need more discussion?
Just one procedural question. What are the implications of us not taking action this evening, time-wise?
Well, then the council will probably can go ahead and move forward. And this is why this is being videotaped. The chances of us having detailed minutes for them to review for their meeting next week is slim enough.
Okay,
We gotta get it
so there is action for next week. Okay.
It's actually for next week.
I'll second that. The motion you haven't made yet.
No motion haven't made yet. Okay, let's see if we can get this all together. So I move we approve the CIP at $580,000 $680,000, excuse me, with $100,000 to be reserved and allocated at a future point.
And may I ask, is that also to include the next 4-year plan after that?
Yeah, didn't know we needed to do that one, but that's fine. We'll approve the 5-year plan.
Okay. With that exception?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a second? Nope. You're the chair.
Do you want to second that?
I second the motion.
I didn't realize we're passing also the 5-year plan. The second,
That was why I was stuttering.
Okay.
I have, can we discuss the Van Valkenburg amenities? It's $600,000, and I just would like just to know what those amenities are.
There is a plan, and I could and should have probably put it in your packet. It's a plan that I've met with neighbors on and worked with an architect, and it shows a development of a small mini park, if you will. So there is a master plan for that to finish it off.
So that's pathways and a playground and
a hard surface court. Now, it will very likely change 5 years from now. Needs and desires change annually, which is why we need to remain flexible and why it's so difficult to come up with a 10-year plan. There'll be sports we've never even been invented yet that may be extremely popular that will be converted. But there is a master plan for Van Valkenburg Park that's estimated to cost about $600,000. It's drawn. And
you can share that with us?
I'd be happy
to. John, my one thought is, why are we taking a big dip in 2014? Is there something else related to that? Because we're at 680, we're going to 580, and we're going to 400, then back up to 650. If we're trying to plan things out, is that the best way to construct the budget going forward, or should we be inserting some undesignated funds potentially in 2014 for projects that we know are out there that we may want to do at that point?
We could certainly add some additional projects into the mix to raise that 400 up to closer to 6. That certainly could be done.
So there's nothing else driving that in the background of another project being done somewhere else in the city. It just happened to be that's the number that's there, and there's no other reason beyond that.
That's correct.
Okay.
How much? I guess what I personally want to understand is the 2012 is important. It's going to become the number in a week or so, or some variation thereon. How much does the numbers for 13, 14, 15, 16 influence what actually happens in 13, 14, 15, and 16?
It'll probably change each year.
That's what I was figuring.
Yep. It's a 1-year budget and a 5-year plan.
We have a motion and a second out here, right? All in favor of adopting the proposed 2012-2016 capital improvement plan as outlined by David? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Right.
Just want to make sure that the inventory is removed as we made the motion earlier.
Yep.
And
Yep.
And as we get to the next meeting, if you could, of the items that are next, highest priority, if you could give us an expected cost for the next few, that would be helpful too.
Oh, on the unfunded ones?
On the unfunded ones, yes.
Oh, okay, sure. We'll take our best shot.
All right, 5F, Veterans Memorial Public Process. John, you want to give us an update, or what?
Well, we got to back up. Now we have to do your enterprise facility.
Oh, sorry, I
CIP.
apologize.
As much as I know they'd like to go home.
One by one, start with the Aquatic Center. Flow rider.
If anyone has a cell phone on, even if it's on vibrate, please turn it off. It interferes with the wireless.
Does anybody have any questions for Ed on his CIP?
I move we accept that.
I'll second that. All in favor? Aye. Next is the arena CIP. Looks like we're replacing a Zamboni and resurfacing a parking lot this year. Did you say that's 4 Zambonis for $140,000? We're replacing them all?
Doug, would you like to come forward and talk about your Zambonis?
The 140,000 is for one
One. Okay.
Can I ask a question about the parking lot?
Yes.
I know that the cost of parking lot resurfacing, the majority of cost is the asphalt. So what I'm trying to do is trying to find some dollars in here that might make the arena have a little more curb appeal. And I've been sitting through these meetings where everybody's talking about placemaking and how there's a feeling that you get when you drive up to a place, and a feeling that you want to linger or you want to stay. And I don't get that feeling when I drive up to the arena right now. So I'm trying to figure out, how often do you need all the spaces in that large parking lot?
During the winter months, almost on a daily basis.
Oh, shoot. Okay, because what my point would be is that maybe we could do something, eliminate a little bit of parking or resurfacing, move the dollars to something that makes that worthy of what it is, which is it's a nice facility, and I want to just make sure that it still has that. That sense, if there's any way we could do that within the budget.
Right. I can understand that. We've tried to do a few things on our own over the last couple of years, adding bushes to the islands that line Eichel Way. We do have a nice flower garden, and our rose bushes are always beautiful.
Right, and they're gorgeous right now, but when the majority of people are coming in the wintertime, it would be nice to have something that had winter interest too. So that was my one point, and I also have been trying to deal with whether or not you could put permeable in there, since it's part of the 9 Mile Creek watershed, and get some matching funds for redoing that surface. And I think that's a bigger question than I know I mentioned it to you. And it has to do with the depth that you're repaving, and it has to do with a lot of things. But I would recommend that you pursue that, because it is possible we can get matching funds from the 9 Mile Creek by putting in permeable pavement.
Yeah, that's something we'll bring forward to our engineering department that runs that part of our renovation, and they're much more knowledgeable than I am on that. But he's been very helpful getting us to where we are today. Otherwise, we wouldn't have the overlay that we have in place.
Correct.
Yeah. But no, a good comment. We'll pass that on.
What's the life expectancy on one of your Zambonis?
The arena's been working on a 10-year rotation. Currently, the Zamboni that we hope to replace next year, I believe, would be 16 years old.
So basically, we're going to be looking at like $140,000 for a Zamboni every other year.
Over the next 5 years, correct.
Yeah, but then the 2012 one at some point will need to be replaced then too.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
Doug, what's a used one worth? What does Zamboni Company give Edina to take it and rehab it and resell it?
I do not believe I have ever seen those numbers in the past.
But don't they give us something for the...
We will get something on a trade. I'm not sure what that amount is going to be. I guess it would depend on the age and the condition of the machines.
Any competitors to Zamboni in the world?
Olympia, unfortunately, their electric resurfacers are far more expensive than Zamboni. And I believe that we would like to stick with electric. I think that's a great tool for the community.
Any chance you could give Mr. Peterson a ride on one of those Zambonis? It's been a lifelong dream of his. I'm serious.
We get that question a lot. Lots of people want to ride on them.
Okay. Now, can I ask at this point? No, that's no problem. I'm still trying to understand the discrepancy between the projected $285,000 in CapEx and the $573,706 in the budget as the estimated for the year.
And that's in years...
That's 2011. That's what was projected for 2011.
Oh, I see.
And this is what's estimated for this year. And I just want to know that's a substantial discrepancy, and I'm trying to understand what the difference is.
All right, that's an accounting entry on their estimated, and I don't know why they've got that. That's the best answer I can give you.
Okay.
Okay.
There wasn't, so there hasn't been another capital, there hasn't been another large capital project or something that went on.
I'm going to take a guess at this, but I think it has to do with the renovation of the West Arena.
That's what I would say.
Yeah. And that actually accounting should have taken place on a separate budget, a different ledger that is a different source of money, not the operating budget, but through the revenue bonds we needed to renovate the entire West Arena.
We are still paying bills on that renovation project.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But no, we have not exceeded the budget, and we're not anticipating exceeding our capital budget as it's been approved. All right, if that's your question.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to understand.
I'm sorry, yeah, no.
On the budgetary
good
numbers
question.
that I've got here, I'm trying
Now
to
I understand. I'm sorry. No, we are not exceeding that, and we are going to spend every nickel of the revenue bond money because we've been directed to do so. Thank you for that question. And we'll follow up and ask finance why the number is estimated by them, not by us, to be exorbitantly over what's budgeted. So we'll probably come up with a good answer for you.
So now that I know that we're going to be considering paybacks for things, I'm wondering if you've considered installing geothermal or solar to, I'm looking at your light expenses and the heat expenses, $238,000 for electricity. I'm just wondering, putting in geothermal for what's going to be the month payback for that. If you could get us that number, that would also go into the mix of potential.
I believe Woodbury just did that, geothermal. We could possibly look at some of their numbers. Hopefully they'd be cooperative in helping us out with that. Itasca Ice Arena in Cambridge, I believe, has geothermal. I don't know a lot about it, to tell you the truth. Depending on who you talk to, some people swear by it, some people say don't do it.
Okay, and I know that our new public works site's doing it, so we have internal people that will also be honest. But I would suggest that we're talking about trying to save the city money with a capital investment, and I think that this should be in the mix.
Lighting in the arena, I believe, is something that we should be looking at.
Right. I know that we have already evaluated, like Edinburgh, how much money we could save by changing the light bulbs. Right. And I think that that's something that I would like to see.
If there's no further questions, is there a motion to approve?
I move we approve the Braemar capital budget.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Did you have a second on that?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Thank you.
Centennial Lakes. Where exactly are you adding the restroom facility?
We're looking at a restroom facility just to the south of the building, either attached or a standalone. So between the building and the amphitheater, literally right at the building site.
Isn't there a restroom right in the building there, too?
Inside the building there is, but there's a little limited hours there, and they're a little undersized. We had to reduce them a few years ago because of all the ADA, and so they're a little undersized right now.
So these would be accessible?
Yeah, and open from the exterior.
And is it safe to say when we have private rentals, which we're marketing even more and encouraging more, it's very difficult for the public to access those during private rentals?
Yeah, that and the fact that as people head in towards the building, it kind of interferes with the rental a little bit, so it'd be a better experience.
I move we approve the capital expenditure budget for Centennial Lakes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Edinburgh Park. I have a question. If we're in the process of evaluating Edinburgh Park, and we've had descriptions of Edinburgh Park with the trust fund as the train on the track and the bridge is out, we're going to run out of money in 3 years. Is there any way we can delay $125,000 in concrete repairs, and push that back a year, and just wait to see what happens with that study of Edinburgh? You know, maybe it's an asset that we end up repositioning somehow.
Well, I'd defer to Ann on the concrete repairs for $125,000. Is that what the question is?
Yeah.
To see if that, is that something that could be delayed, or are we at a safety point where that needs to be done?
We do have some safety issues on the north side. This is addressing two separate issues. We have a walkway on the north side of the park that is quite extensive, actually. It starts on York and goes all the way on the north side of the building, all the way down to Edinburgh Way. And we've already replaced the cul-de-sac concrete, and so this would go from the cul-de-sac to essentially the northwest entrance of the building. And what's happened is some trees have caused concrete to heave, and we actually have some spots where we have some elevations that are probably 3-4 inches. And we also have some areas, when the park was originally built, they had concrete and then brick pavers. And we removed the pavers many years ago because they were tripping hazards. We filled them in with concrete, and now the concrete is deteriorating. So it is a safety issue. We can do our best to patch it for another year if that's what you would like. The other issue that we're addressing in that $125,000 is the parking ramp entrance, which is the main entrance to the park. We also have some tripping hazard issues there, and we also have some really significant water problems there. We have some really bad drainage issues that have really been a problem also since the park was built. So I have some concerns there about water seeping into the lower level of our employee area. Could it be delayed? Probably could. We're going to spend some money patching to keep it safe.
What do you guys think about that?
This is not in the purview of the consulting report that we've undertaken. These are not things that are going to be that are going to in any way, shape, or form going to change based on the recommendations, et cetera, correct?
Well, the only exception that I would say to that is we did ask them to look at the pool and track area and then the land that we own to the north of the park. We own about an acre outside. So there is potential. Certainly we wouldn't do any of these construction projects until after that report is complete.
Okay.
Does that answer? Could be.
Well,
Is
if you-
there
if
likely
you-
an expansion? Probably not, but
If you delay this now, will it be back on the list next year?
we could certainly do that.
Must it be, how long could you delay it for? Let me change the question.
I
Could you
would-
delay
I
it
would
beyond
not
a year?
wanna- I would not want to delay it more than a year
Thank you.
because of the safety concerns.
And would patching or doing some, just making sure that the facility is safe, would that go over $10,000? Is that, what would your estimate be for the cost of that?
I would guess probably somewhere between 5 and 10. But I would also suggest that if we did keep the money in the budget, we wouldn't be looking at doing anything with this until next spring at the earliest. At that point, we would certainly have a good idea of what the plan is from the consultant.
One of my concerns with this, and you bring a good point and a very valid one, is are we being penny wise and pound foolish if we're going to pour good money after bad, throw money into a repair that's just going to have to be ripped up and replaced the following year? I don't know that that's in our best interest. If it's a safety issue, in my recommendation is to get it fixed, be sure we're safe for the public's use, because it's going to be back on your agenda the next year, and we will have just spent additional dollars just to delay it another year. And I don't know that that's money well spent in this case.
It doesn't appear to me either that even if the facility was repurposed or something different done to it, these are these are spaces that are in the open that are going to have to be maintained no matter what happens. And so I would agree in this case that deferring it, I'm not sure that it accomplishes anything.
I agree with that. I'd actually more interested in, do we need the lighting retrofit at this point, particularly given the consulting report and everything else?
Well, again, we're looking at doing this in 2012, and it is something that I've been looking at for the last few years, and that project would have, depending upon the type of lighting, between 1.5 years and a 2.5 year payback.
The only last thing I'll say is that the work session that we were at with City Council, it was like, it seemed like everything was on the table, that there could be the potential that we relocate the assets in that facility to some other location. So that was my point, is do we want to spend $125,000 on something that we might find out that, you know, maybe we move the Adventure Peak to, you know, another part of the city. I don't know.
But if we're going to sell the building, the basic maintenance needs to be done, and this sounds to me like basic maintenance.
Okay.
But I would defer the soft play area. That would be my, you know, the other, there's this, I would suggest that the soft play area for the Great Hall is deferred for at least a year.
And is this not a return on investment, the soft play?
Well, the soft play is something that I budgeted for with the possibility that it would be something that the consultant would recommend for more revenue potential.
So this would allow, this would allow you to expand what, the area in which you can do birthday parties and things? Is that what we're looking at, or?
Well, the soft play actually, I have 2 locations in mind. One would be the Great Hall, and one would be if we decided to repurpose either the pool or track location. So essentially what I was trying to do is have some dollars available in case that was a recommendation that the consultant made. We do have issues in the park right now where our toddlers, particularly on the weekends, have a tough time competing for space with some of the older kids. So what I've been trying to do over the past few years is increase toddler activities so that they have a safe place to play separate from the older kids.
I've got a silly question, but can we pass this tonight pending review in January or next spring prior to any work being done?
Sounds like a great idea.
Sure.
Chairman is not.
This is your chair at this point.
Yeah, you've been upgraded.
I'd move approval of the capital improvement.
Sorry, second? I'm sorry, what, the whole capital improvement?
For Edinburgh.
Do you want to add pending,
I'd love to.
To be revisited in January, just in case
Based
we
on
learn something
from the consultant.
from the consultant that changes our opinion.
Right.
Sure.
Second. Okay, there we go.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, correct me if we're wrong, but are the aquatic center? Or, are we, I'm going
Golf
off this,
course.
sorry. Golf course, okay. Are there any questions?
I do have a question for Todd, and it's one you don't need to answer tonight, but think about for 2 weeks. The consultant's report had liked the idea of cart paths, and the capital improvement is $100,000 for each 9, 1 through 9 and 10 through 18. And then there's, I'm assuming the word slip drainage, 3 fairways, 110,000 in 2014. Is that what I used to call a French drain deal?
No, it's a newer technology that the equipment comes out of England, and it is a very low disturbance level for the golfers, but it opens a trench, a small trench, and lays sand back into it in one pass. Oh. And with multiple strips, so it's been a really effective tool for us. Number 1, we did that, and it's made a world of difference.
And really, the question I'd like you to think about for 2 weeks is, do both make sense? I personally, as a golfer, okay, I'll drive down your path and walk to my ball, but my ball is probably still sitting in mud. And an area, because of what Braemar, the ground is, it's a floodplain. It was never developed by a developer for homes because it's poor ground for that. It's clay and silt and what have you. And many parts of the fairways don't drain well. So would you do both, or would you like the idea of one over the other?
I'll give you my plan at the next meeting.
Yay.
No, I've got a plan already, but I'll go through it at that
you.
meeting if that's all right.
Sure.
So what is it that we're trying to approve? Maybe it's late and I'm losing concentration here, but if we're getting a presentation next month, wouldn't that be for the whole operation, the capital plan, as it relates to the golf consultant's recommendations, the budget, the new business plan, or how you might be adjusting the business? Wouldn't that all come as a part of that same presentation? So we would not be approving that tonight, would we?
Well, I think what is being asked of you is to approve the 2012 as a budget, and if you want to withhold any decisions on the next 4 years until the 11th, I think that's fine. If, Todd, if you feel that there's likely that will change from what's in front of them now, based on your October 11th presentation.
There may be some changes.
Okay, and I think that's fine. Again, not a lot is going to happen between now and when the 2013 budget is approved, but I think at the very least we'd like your advice on the 2012 proposed CIP, because it's my understanding that won't change from your October 11 presentation.
The CIP? Basically not, no.
Yeah.
Wouldn't even consider flip-flopping the priorities of the structural repair to the Golf Dome and the driving range expansion from 2012 and 2013, if the driving range expansion is the priority?
As far as return on investment, it is the priority. The state of the Golf Dome, that's actually a big priority too, in that we would lose those revenues if the dome and the building did blow away.
And this year, it's 80,000 we made on that dome. That's a good year for
Yeah.
the dome. So, that's something to really make sure that it's operational.
Well, it's a great insurance policy for us. We had a
Yes.
poor spring, didn't make it at the golf course, but we made it at the golf dome.
Yeah. I'm just wondering on the 135 on maintenance equipment, is that a must-do this year? As we're looking at trying to shift things around between this year and next year, are there deferments there that might be potential?
Potentially. We are falling behind the equipment replacement schedule for most of the mowers. The recommended is 5 to 7 years, and we're exceeding those recommendations. So we are already falling a little bit behind, but we could probably trim that a little bit, but not all of it.
I guess what we're asking is a motion to approve the 2012, and then discuss the other four at your October 11 meeting.
I so move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Thank you.
Do we want to have an opportunity to review this one again, too, after the presentation? We had a bunch of people that didn't vote, so I'm just bringing that up. Do we want to amend it and re-vote?
They're non-golfers.
Okay, so what are we moving on here?
I'm not sure what you're saying.
Okay. I thought that was what we did in the motion.
Yeah.
I thought that was.
So can you repeat the motion?
I'm not sure. I believe the motion was to approve the 2012 budget and to defer approval of the years beyond until we get the report at our October meeting.
Yes.
And there was a second. Would you like to re-vote for clarification?
All I'm suggesting is I think that 12 should still be open to review if there's something new we learn. And obviously, the work is not going to be done until spring. That's all I'm suggesting.
Yeah, I think I concur with that suggestion on the motion.
And I do too.
So I think the motion we're talking about is we're going to approve it as it is, but if we learn something new between now or by the January meeting, we have the option of bringing it up and revisiting or reshuffling or, and also the implications of if we're saying, hey, we want to consider throwing the 100,000 from the capital budget in there, there may be some reshuffling as well. So I think, but today at what we're doing, I think we just have to say, hey, we're going to pass it, but we're going to have the chance to revisit by January if that's what we choose to do.
I think that makes more sense, too.
Being that you've already passed a motion, and that's fine, you can't erase what's been done, but what you can do, and I think you reserve the right to make new motions at following meetings to change what was previously approved. If you want to adjust what was approved tonight at your October meeting, you have all the right to do so.
But would it make sense to make a motion or informally communicate to the city council that we are going to relook at this, just so that they know this isn't firm for us?
We'll be happy to pass that information along to the council unless you feel you need a formal motion to that effect. Chair?
It wouldn't hurt. You want to make a motion?
Do I want to include both? Emerald Park and
Who made the motion?
Golf
They can
Center?
retract it.
I think it started over there.
Peterson
Okay, we'll retract the motion, now make the new one. I'm going to go home.
Go ahead.
You can't erase what you've already voted on.
Right.
You can make a new motion for a different action.
I move we pass the 2012 budget, CIP budget for Braemar Golf Course, and with the provision that we will reconsider it in October after the presentation regarding the consulting report.
Well, we've already passed it, but.
Yeah.
There's a nuance to it.
Yes.
All in favor, say aye.
Is there a second?
Yeah, there was a second.
Okay.
Second, third, fourth.
All in favor, say aye. Opposed? All right. Okay, let's move along. Park and Rec.
The Veterans Memorial Public Process. Would you like me to? We've already.
We already covered that? Okay, yes, please.
Okay.
No, that's different. Yes.
I can make this.
Yep, please do. Item VF, 5F.
Yes, 5F. The action of staff that I'm recommending you do is to approve what we call the public process for the Veterans Memorial Project. What I'm proposing is that we conduct an open house here at the City Council chambers on Tuesday, October 25, from 6:30 to 8 p.m. And what we do, we would send notices to all those homes within 1,000 feet of the perimeter of Utley Park. That would be 108 properties they'd be mailed to. We would put it on our website. We put it on in the Sun Current and invite everyone to come in and learn about the project. And we would have a means by which to capture their comments. We'll have comment cards and we'll be taking notes. Our consultant would be here, our Veterans Memorial Committee would be here, and I would hope any of those Park Board members who would be interested certainly attend. In that notice, I would also note to the residents that this matter will be brought to the Park Board at your Monday, November 7 meeting to receive public testimony. Now, that's not a public hearing per se, but it would be on your agenda to then formally recommend to the City Council in what form this then goes forward with what we've learned from the open house exercise. And from there, we would recommend to the Council they conduct a public hearing that would take place on November 15th. And with that, if you approve this, then I would ask the Council, then they would have to set this as a public hearing date. And then notices again would be mailed to inform those residents that there's going to be a public hearing, and we'd also put the legal notice in the paper. So the formal legal public hearing would take place at the council, and yet you would still have your duty here as a park board whether or not to recommend the project go forward.
Does anybody have any questions on the process that John just outlined? If not, then I'd make a motion to accept the report as outlined in the staff report.
Second.
All in favor?
Is there a second?
Aye. There was a second down there.
Okay.
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Correspondence and petitions. Any to discuss?
I do not have any for this meeting.
Any chair or board member comments this evening?
I'd just like to thank the staff. Really, there's been a ton of work done, so thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
My compliments to my staff that just did a fantastic job with their budget, the business plan, and their CIP. It's a lot of work.
Thanks for coming back twice. Staff comments?
I have none. I think you've heard enough from me tonight.
With that, I move to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Thursday morning at 7:30.
3 hours and 15. That's one of your longer meetings. Yeah, you covered a lot.
Yeah, that was good.
A lot of good dialogue.
Have a good night.
You too, Joseph. Welcome back. Say, I wanted to let you know,
Yes, that's what I said.
I've got Eddie as your staff liaison for you.
No. Said he